Insurance plus a variety of business insurance options to cover your small business needs and more. Visit progressive.com today. Again, that's progressive.com.
Getting you all set for that drive home. Let's just start the show. Here's Jon and Jim.
What's going on, San Diego? Jon and Jim on a Wednesday. Me and Brent are holding down the fort for the rest of the week. I am back. What happened? Not a lot, right? Nothing happened while I was gone?
Just the usual.
Just the usual around here? Just dysfunction and drama, a new manager search. Other than that, pretty normal around here in San Diego. We have a good show lined up for you today. Andy Halbrun is going to join me at 4:30. Tom Penn, CEO of SDFC, is going to join me at 3:30. We have a lot to talk about. A lot. So I was gone. I was back east over the weekend. I was at a funeral on Monday afternoon. And so I got back last night, and I have just been consuming. I have been consuming all of the content. Did a wrap-up show on Monday night, but that was without, really letting things breathe here with the departure of Mike Shildt, the quote-unquote retirement of Mike Shildt. And you know what? I'm going to stop calling it a retirement, Brent, because it's not a retirement from baseball. The one thing that you have to look at when you see these things go down is you have to look at the wording. All right. The wording is very important here. Very important. Mike Shildt retired from the Padres. Okay. He did not retire from baseball. He did not say he is done with baseball. He's retiring from baseball because the dude's a lifer. All right. All he knows is baseball. So this is not a retirement from baseball. This is, he quit the Padres. He quit. I don't know how else to look at it. I know that the factual term here is he retired from the Padres, but I mean, let's be real here, guys. The dude quit. Now you can question the quitting aspect of this. Like, did he really quit, or was he pushed out, or was he fired? I mean, all of that to me is up for questioning. All of it. Now, I know this is a couple days late because Mike Shildt and everything happened on Monday, and now it's a Wednesday, but still, I'll say this. Do I believe everything that the Padres and Mike Shildt have said? Because I know AJ Preller spoke yesterday afternoon while I was in the air, of course. And Mike Shildt, relayed to Dennis and Kevin and obviously in his letter to the fan base and to the Padres that, citing, medical reasons as far as, losing his hair and just the toll it took on him, and mental reasons, and doing this for himself. And I don't doubt that the last year plus has been really difficult on Mike Shildt. I don't doubt that for one bit. He went through a divorce, and that, I'm sure, weighed a heavy toll on Mike Shildt as a person, right? I don't doubt like that at all. But to say that's the only reason why he quit, I don't buy it. This, to me, does not pass the sniff test. I'm sorry, it doesn't. Not to say that those things aren't true. I believe them to an extent, that it could have played a role into the big decision here. But I also don't fully believe it was 100% because of that. I just don't. He signed an extension less than a year ago. He's just going to leave $4 million on the table? Huh? He's 57 years old. He's not 77 years old. Mike Shildt's Mr. Foxhole guy. He's like Mr. I never quit guy. He's Mr. Grit Squad guy. And then he quits? He retires? Like, does that make sense to you out there?
Quit Squad.
Quit Squad. That's a good one, Brent. He's Quit Squad. And I'll say this, for all the pieces that are coming out now, and we'll get into them, especially the Kevin AC piece that he wrote yesterday, or it got published, I think, last night. Like, throwing this guy under the bus on his way out. I'll be the first one to tell you, I've been very critical of Mike Shildt from like close to day one. Like I have been very upfront about, I've never been a Mike Shildt guy. Like not even once. I think the guy was phony. I think he was fake. I think he was Mr. Try Too Hard. Like to me, I saw right through the guy. And I said as much as starting last year. I remember there was a game or a series early on in the season last year, Brent, and you'll probably remember this. They lost 5 in a row. I think they just got swept in Colorado by the Rockies, and he just blew up on Dennis.
Yeah.
And at the time, I'm pretty sure I described that press conference as one of the most embarrassing press conferences by a Padres manager that I could ever remember since I've been covering this team for the last decade plus. So for everything I say about Mike Shildt from here on out, this is not me throwing the guy under the bus on his way out the door. No, this is me just like reaffirming my thoughts about Mike Shildt from close to day one. I never wavered on that. I did not think Mike Shildt was the guy. He was testing that theory because all they did was win. They won 93 games last year and they won 90 games this year. So me saying I don't think Mike Shildt was the guy and I didn't like him and I thought the way that he conducted business was just like I could not roll my eyes farther back into my head than I was. He was really testing that because you're winning. And in professional sports, you can deal with all the BS behind the scenes as long as you win. So again, that's why this does not seem like it just is what it is on paper. If you can deal with all this stuff while winning, how could this situation not be dealt with? And the fact that, you're burned out, I don't doubt you're burned out. Bro, everybody in baseball is burned out. Like this is the job. And Mike knows it too. This is not something new to Mike. This wasn't something new to him, the burnout factor of it. Shoot, I cover this team on a day in and day out basis, going to the ballpark every single day for 2+ years. I never played one game, obviously, and even I was burned out. And I was just covering the team, doing nothing. So yeah, of course, all these guys are burned out. Every manager in baseball, to a man, would tell you that they are burned out at the end of the year. That's why there's a 5-month offseason. Or if you make the World Series and you win it, then you're on cloud 9 and you can kind of roll into next year as the defending World Series champions. Right? It's not as grindy as other positions are in baseball. But name me one manager in baseball that at the end of the season is like, you know what? I actually feel really good. Let's keep going. I don't want time off. This is not a grind. You can't find one of them. So, look, I do think that Mike Shildt is being truthful when he says that the mental side of this took a toll. And I'm not doubting that whatsoever. Okay. To each their own. And if you seriously are mentally not equipped to do this job, okay. But I just think there's more to it than just that. Because of what I said, Mike Shildt, lifer, gamer, grit squad, foxhole guy, never quit. Always going to back his boys, right? He tried for 2+ years after getting fired by the Cardinals to get back into this position, to the point where he basically undermined Bob Melvin to get this spot. To an extent, by the way, not completely undermined Bob Melvin, but working behind the scenes to if there was ever a change in manager, the first guy on the top of the list would be Mike Shildt. Work in a room. So then all of a sudden, 2 years later, he's like, nah, peace out, bye. Right after the season ended, like, you don't think that he could have maybe said, you know what? I'm burnt out. This has been a grind for me. Let me take some time. And look, I know he said he took some time, but dude, your offseason's 5 months. I guarantee you by the start of next year, he's going to get that itch again. That's just who Mike Shildt is. And just to remind you, he didn't retire from baseball. He retired from the Padres. He quit the Padres. Okay. The retirement word is thrown in there to make it look better than it really is. If it came out that Mike Shildt quits the Padres, that doesn't look great. But saying he retired, oh, here's the flowers. Oh, Mike Shildt, we wish you well in your retirement. Okay. No one's going to wish you well after quitting the team, right? No one's going to say, hey, man, we wish you well after you quit. So this whole thing to me just does not pass the sniff test. I'm sorry. It just doesn't. It doesn't. You can believe what you want to believe. But for me personally, it doesn't really match up. There are more questions here than answers. And I'm actually very surprised Mike Shildt talked to the media today. He was on MLB Sirius XM radio. You have this, Brent? And he talked about his decision to retire/quit the Padres.
This year was as grindy as I've had. Very rewarding year. I love everything about the Padres, and I want to make sure that's pretty clear too, because AJ Preller's been nothing but treated me like gold, and speculation that he's been hard on you, or no. AJ was a complete blessing, and it was very, very rewarding to work with somebody that cared as much as I did. But just the accumulation of the years, and then all that comes with the job now, and the expectations, and over the course of the season, it's starting to wear on me a little bit physically, and I'm 57, which is not old, but still not young, and I started looking around, going, is this who I need to be as a person, and is this where I need to continue to do, and then most importantly, guys, I know what it takes to go and help lead a team and a staff to a 90+ win season and a World Series run, in which I've been able to do, and I know what that feels like and looks like, and I had to be honest with myself. I didn't out of respect to, most importantly, our players that I love dearly, and got into primarily to help lead young men to help get the most out of their God-given ability. And we got an unbelievable group of guys that is very hard to say, I don't have the privilege of being your manager anymore, but I also couldn't, as Tony LaRusse would say, I couldn't half-step it. And when I thought that there was a chance I would half-step it or not have what it took emotionally, mentally, or physically to give what it takes, then the decision got pretty easy.
Again, you can believe what you want to believe. And if you want to take Mike Shildt at his word 100%, go for it. I'm not going to stop you. But I can tell you, from the things that I've heard, the things that are being reported, the aftermath, just 2 days after, this does not pass the sniff test. I'm sorry. It just doesn't. It doesn't. All right, coming up next, Robert Murray, baseball insider. He had some thoughts on Mike Shildt's retirement. You're going to hear that coming up here next segment. Also, Kevin Acee put out an article last night. We'll get into it. All of that coming up next on Jon and Jim on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, listen for your chance to win a 4-pack tickets to Howl-O-Scream at SeaWorld San Diego this year. New horrors awaken with 5 haunted houses, 8 terrifying scare zones, hidden speakeasies, and the shrills of coasters after dark every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday now through November 2nd. Halloween fun for the whole family for a limited time. Kids go free with paid adult tickets. Visit SeaWorldSanDiego.com for more information. All right, Robert Murray, baseball insider, today on his podcast, discuss the, as he said, surprising, shocking, quote, retirement of Mike Shildt. Take a listen.
Strong start, but him messaging me being Mike Shildt, and I'm like, what about him?
Yeah, what's up with that guy?
Yeah, and he's stepped down as Padres manager and retired, and that really caught me off guard. And you do more digging around it, and yeah, like some of it that comes with it, the grind of the job, like being away from family, and obviously the criticism and the death threats that he received played a big part into this thing as well. But that's not the entire picture here. There was definitely some friction between Shildt and some people with the Padres for sure. He was not like totally universally loved by people that were around him. But that being said, I do believe he had a good relationship with AJ Preller. That it wasn't anything like that, but it was just people that he was dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And I believe it was Kevin Acey of the San Diego Union Tribune say that it was like a micromanaging deal that was part of the problem. And that's something I have heard as well. So like that was part of it that happened. And now this to me becomes the most intriguing opening in baseball, and been trying to figure out exactly who could end up being candidates to replace Shildt. And we also got to remember too, is like AJ Preller, he is not signed long-term, at least to our knowledge. And that status is going to be a question here. If I'm the Padres, I absolutely do everything imaginable to keep Preller in San Diego. To me, he's the best executive in baseball. I don't think it should be up for debate. I think he is phenomenal at what he does, and we can continue to add to the major league roster while also maintaining that the minor leagues stay competitive and have reinforcements coming year in and year out. Like that's a huge credit to him. But if you have him sign long-term, if you get him signed long-term, that's a big part of it. But this managerial search is going to end up being very important. And the 2 names that I'm looking at there are Ryan Flaherty of the Chicago Cubs. And I also think Nick Hundley, who is now at the Rangers, I think he's interviewed with the Giants. Is that right? I feel like that was reported.
He's certainly.
Okay. So a lot there to unpack. I think what I'm feeling right now is honestly deja vu. This feels like just deja vu all over again. You know, I've been seeing a lot of Padres fans being like, "Oh, I'm glad, the drama's gone and the toxic work environment's done with, and we can get a new manager in here and start fresh." Really? You think the drama's gone? You think the toxic workplace is done? Are you serious? Like the Padres, this is what they do. There is never a normal offseason in Padres land. Never. Now, again, do I appreciate it from a standpoint of content reasons? Like, yeah, but there's never a normal offseason. Ever. When you have as many managers as this franchise has had over just the last 6 years, and the common denominator, or at least the common talking point with all those managers is, well, the drama's now gone, so we can get someone else in here and it will be a clean slate. And then the same thing happens over and over and over and over again. The drama's not going anywhere. As long as AJ Preller's in charge, as long as Eric Grupner is there with AJ Preller, bro, guys, the drama's not going anywhere. The toxic workplace might be fine for a year and a half, but this is now a pattern. This is a constant cycle with this franchise. Okay? When things change, I would love to know when that's going to be. because there's no way I'm sitting here and whoever the hell the new manager is, am I going to say, well, at least now the organization's stable. I didn't like Mike Shildt, and I said that a month ago. I was like, well, at least the organization from a manager and a GM perspective at this moment in time feels stable. But the question still remains about AJ Preller because of his and Eric Grupner's relationship, and we don't even know what the hell John Seiler's going to want to do. But hey, at least AJ found his manager if he remains here, and then the guy quits. Like, what? So the drama's not going anywhere. The drama's here to stay. Yeah, exactly, John. It's never a dull moment with this team. It's never like business as usual. Let's just focus on the on-field stuff. No, there always has to be an article about work environment. There has to be an article about a toxic, drama-filled clubhouse. Or there always has to be an article about how guys can't get along. Like every other year, it's like clockwork around here. There is not one offseason where there's not something with this franchise. And honestly, it's kind of crazy that with all of this, they still have won. Which is crazy. I know AJ Preller spoke yesterday and said that, well, we're very stable. We have a lot of people in this organization that have been around for a long time. You're right, AJ, you do. But you've also gone through like 7 managers and 30 plus coaches. I am in favor of AJ Preller now. I want AJ Preller to stick around. I want him to be the general manager of this team because if he's not, the other side of this could look very ugly. But the drama, man, that's never going away, it feels like. That feels like it's never going away. All right, if you missed Kevin Acee earlier in the week, you're going to hear him coming up next to talk about the decision for Mike Shildt to retire/quit from the Padres. That's coming up next right here on Jon and Jim on San Diego Sports 760.
The support is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Game 3 of the ALCS between the Blue Jays and Mariners is tonight at 5:08. It's going to be Shane Bieber going against George Kirby. Game 4 is set for tomorrow night at 5:30. Game 3 of the NLCS between the Brewers and Dodgers is also set for tomorrow afternoon at 3:08. The Brewers have not decided on their starting pitcher yet, and the Dodgers are going with Tyler Glass now. Make sure to catch SDFC Midweek Live tonight at 6 o'clock. Adrian and Darren are going to talk all things SDFC at 6 on your home for SDFC, San Diego Sports 760. Progressive Insurance can help you protect your home, auto, boat, motorcycle, ATV, and RV, and more. And if something wasn't mentioned that you had in mind, find out if it can be covered at progressive.com or at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE, because it probably can be.
All right, so the man that broke the Mike Shildt retiring news was Kevin Acee on Monday. He joined the show this week to talk about that. And the first thing that they talked about, John and Kevin, this week was what changed from the end of the season to now, leading to Mike Shildt's retirement.
Listen, I believe it's absolutely true that Mike, needed to step away, that Mike made the decision for his health, ultimately, that's what needed to happen. We may never know everything that went into this. I mean, we just might not. I mean, because it is so extraordinary that a man would walk away from at least $4 million and perhaps, up to $6 million. We don't know what Mike was owed. And we also don't know if he really walked away from all of it. I mean, there's some unknowns, but I can tell you based on, reporting, and I've been reporting on this story for longer than, you might think, and conversation with Mike yesterday. He is worn out. He needed a break. He was tired. He's worried about his health. So that is what I believe that is to be totally true. What other stuff there? I guess we'll find out, or just as likely we won't find out if there was any other aspects that made it so that now was the time that Mike is gone.
Do you believe when he says, though, he's retired, and like you said, maybe we'll find out if there's been some type of terms with the organization? Did he really walk away from 2-year salary, or did they come to terms? Has he actually retired a baseball lifer at 57? I get it. At the end of a long season, I'm sure it is taxing. These are tough jobs. But a 57-year-old man, hopefully in good health, that's been a baseball lifer, has he worked his final day in professional baseball?
No. I mean, come on. We know what retired means in a lot of these instances, and I can't imagine that Mike is done with baseball. Now, who knows what that is? I mean, is player development? Is it college? Is it some sort of ministry where some FCA thing? I honestly don't know what it is. I do know that once you've had one of these 30 jobs, you want it, and it was a big deal for him to walk away. But he is a baseball lifer. There is nothing else. And to that end, I wish him well, that maybe there can be some other, who am I to say that someone should have a more well-rounded life? That's not what I'm saying. But that there is something else out there for Mike Shildt, because eventually baseball does end for anybody. And that means it ends at midnight, or it ends at some point in your life. And I would love to take Mike Shildt at face value, that whether that's 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, 6 months, whatever his business, that Mike does work on his health, because he assured that he is in good health, as in there is no illness or anything, but that he is in bad health, in that, you've been there. You got 2 gigs going, at least, that I know of. You've been there, those busy times of sleep, wake up, eat, go to work. Sleep, wake up, eat, go to work. 6 over and over. Mike Shildt did that for 8 months of the year, and a manager's job is 12 months. But that's what Mike Shildt did, and he's not happy with where he's at.
That's fair. Kevin Acee is our Padres insider. He's with us right now on Jon and Jim. I'm kind of asking for your opinion here. What's a harder part of managing the Padres, or even the role that Mike Shildt was in the last 2 years? Is it working with the front office led by AJ Preller, or is it the clubhouse dynamics of this specific team with the high-priced players, Manny Machado, not just Machado, but others? Is it the clubhouse dynamic or the front office dynamic?
That's a tricky question, because here's where I will be very careful every time I answer a question. Is the narrative regarding AJ Preller is going to taint anybody who hears my answer. So I want to make sure that I'm letting you know that a lot of the narrative is garbage or is off base. And look, I spent a lot of time in my life in the last few years and time today talking with people who've worked with AJ Preller and people who've worked with Mike Shildt. And these people who've worked with AJ Preller, like, talk about that the narrative is false. Like, he's not he doesn't tell his managers what to do. That managers of the Padres have more autonomy than most. Is it difficult to work with him if you're in the manager's chair? Yeah, you know what? I imagine it is. I imagine it is. And I base that on my knowledge of what it's like to some extent, but also I imagine that it's difficult to work with a lot of very successful people and high powered people and highly driven people. So I just want to make sure that's out there. But I want to say also, yeah, that's probably the more difficult, demanding thing. But the clubhouse thing is real too. Like, and maybe a new voice. Not that, I mean, Mike had the clubhouse. They won 183 games over the last 2 years. But like, maybe there is somebody they can work with and get more out of certain people.
You know, he had this veteran coaching staff, right, that was retained from 2024 to 2025. As in, I guess my question is, would this be a surprise to his coaching staff that this decision was made right now or not?
Depends on which ones you asked. And yeah, veteran kind of,
right,
but like not really. I mean, a lot of player development guys, a lot of guys who come up in the minors. And my understanding is there's some really good coaches on that staff, but not like super vet guys.
Gotcha.
But yeah, yeah. I mean, some were caught by surprise today, and actually all were caught by surprise to some extent today. Yes. But Mike is also, and I would take him at face value here, and they're, am I going to betray a lot of stuff here? But I think that you can believe Mike when he said that he was thinking about this during the season. I also think you can believe, and look, I was around it, and in fact, other people were around it. It's not like you got less out of Mike Shildt once he started thinking about this. Like, he was all in. But like, this is whatever prompted it to happen now. I 100% believe this is something Mike Shildt was thinking about in September and perhaps earlier.
Kevin Acey is our Padres insider. So just taking it back to the Padres and the impact on the team and the clubhouse and where they go from here. You know better than I do, but Manny Machado's had, 4 managers in 7 seasons. Same thing with Fernando Tatis Jr. I'm talking specifically in San Diego. His next manager will be his 5th. I don't know if it's the end all be all or not, but what's the impact here? What impact is this going to have on the team? Another managerial, decision to be made by AJ Preller in this front office.
Yeah, I don't think it should be discounted, but I think it can be overestimated. I think we've talked before about like these players by necessity are the most self-centered people I've ever known in my life. Like, not just Padres players, I'm talking baseball players, and I'm talking professional athletes. And like, they're going to go play. Now, here's what you're looking for in a manager: is the guy who's going to get that extra 10% out of them, right? Like, that's going to make them the best players they can be, either through like baseball fundamentals, but also, motivation over 6 months plus then what's turned into a pretty important month for the Padres, October. And so, like I said, that's something that needs to be addressed, man. They got to adopt this. I mean, this is ridiculous. And sorry, a little bit of that's from the beat writer who's covered 183 wins and 2 playoff appearances, and now it's covering another managerial search. So I'm kind of tired of it. But to answer your question, John, that needs to be addressed, and I think it is somewhat significant. But I'm going to tell you that it's not going to affect Manny Machado's slugging percentage at all next year.
No, it's fair. I'm talking myself in circles as I react to some of what you're saying, and I'm just thinking about it. Like, I think back to Mike Shildt when he left St. Louis. It was philosophical differences. We're hearing none of that, to your point, none of the reporting, none of the commentary coming out from the statements from the Padres or the letter that the UT published from Mike Shildt. But with all that being said, philosophically, will the Padres continue down this path? As in, will it be an internal hire or an external hire? I ask it specifically about some of the baseball strategy that Mike Shildt implemented, specifically in the second half of 2025. Is that who the Padres want to be? $1 billion invested in their lineup? Do they want to get someone on, move him over, and then get him in? Or do you expect that philosophy or philosophically to change?
Well, I think, and I'll just go, some of this is what I'm saying is based on things I talk to people in the organization about, and then I'm extrapolating a little bit and just kind of giving you my thoughts here.
Yeah.
I think Mike Shildt, to some extent, reacted to the team he had.
Right.
So that is then, does the philosophy, the hitting philosophy, hey, Fernando Tatis Jr., left field, Petco Park, pretty good place, hit some bombs. You know, do we need to work more on, hey, Tatis pulls, you know, like the hitting philosophy for certain guys, it may be team wide, could then change how the manager uses the manufacturing of runs, the small ball and all that stuff. I want to defend Mike Shildt on that to some extent. And the players that were given the freedom by Mike Shildt to do some things that Mike Shildt didn't always agree with and maybe should have made sure didn't happen. I don't know. But like, he was also aware of who his team was. And we're all talking about the 2-run homer that could have been hit, but I'm going to sit here and say it probably wasn't going to get hit. So like, I think Mike did a really good job in that way. But your point is absolutely valid. They are looking at their philosophy offensively.
This is not 100% being like, I'm not actually asking this question, but I'm kind of asking this question. Does Manny get a say in this? In the hire? Is he always, right?
Always, but not like, oh, we can't do this or we're gonna do this. I would even say it's not gonna be we're gonna do this because of Manny. But look, he has a say in almost everything, at least like, hey, let's hear what Manny has to say, right? Let's hear what Bogey has to say, right? I don't mean to use all nicknames here, but, that's how they would talk. Let's hear what Joe has to say, right? Like, and then also, hey, let's consider the personality of our team as we are deciding who to be the manager.
Kevin, do you believe, I think this has been reported maybe by yourself, and you have the inner workings better than I do. Does Ruben Niebla, he wants to manage in the big leagues. Is that correct? And he would be interviewed in this scenario?
Yeah. I believe there's 100%. I believe it's close to 100% that he'll be interviewed. I do not have any clarity right now onto, who those candidates really are. There's a few that you could safely assume, would be interested and that they would interview. And without a doubt, like, it would be insulting to not interview Ruben and to maybe find out things that you don't know already about his ability to manage. He's highly thought of, like really highly thought of. There is not another coach. There's no one besides Mike Shildt that talks to AJ Preller and Josh Stein and other people in the front office more than Ruben Niebla does because of his how much they respect him, but also he's the pitching coach handling the very important part 13 players. So yes, without a doubt, it's highly intriguing.
Does it, just a final question or two, do you feel as if, let's say it was filled with Niebla, do you fill a hole by creating another? As in, they already have a very good pitching coach. He's not going to be the manager.
And they have a very good bullpen coach. They have a very good bullpen coach who I would think in the coming days, weeks, you'll hear that Ben Fritz is interviewing or has been, the people have asked permission to interview Ben Fritz for their pitching coach jobs, right? So, because with managerial openings come pitching coach openings in a lot of cases. And, my understanding, talking to a couple of people today, is that's the case. So, okay, if that's the case, then it also makes sense that Ben Fritz could just be elevated and you have your manager, you have your same group, basically.
Last one, because you're going to see it every 2 seconds on social media. What about Bruce Bochy?
Nah, I mean, Bruce and the Padres have both kind of said, I've talked to Bruce Bochy since the middle of the season. So I can't say right now, but I'm saying in the past, both times that they've sort of courted or danced or flirted or whatever. And it hasn't been, a fit. And I just don't know that either side would think it is now. I can certainly see the merits. But how long is Bruce Bochy going to manage? What do we really know about that? And, is it more than 2 years? Is it more than 3? Gosh, could you hire someone now and have some, at least have some thought that you're going to keep him for more than 2 years?
It's like deja vu all over again. I think that was the initial plan with Bob Melvin. I think it was probably the plan with Mike Shildt heading into 2025 or coming out of it, but it's a fair point. When is the next 3-year manager for the Padres? It's been since now Andy Green. To have a manager last more than 2 years, which is somewhat incredible. Kevin, great reporting. We appreciate you.
Should we just give him some kudos? I mean, Andy Green, twice as long as anybody else.
I know. Honestly, I mean, that is kind of ridiculous when you look back on it. He was here 4 years.
And the expectations were pretty out of whack, and everyone knows I'm a fan of Andy Green's. I thought, and I also tend to defend people. I push back on narratives, but Andy Green deserved better than he got from San Diego. And I think it's kind of funny that he's the guy who lasted 4 years.
Okay, but to put a bow on it, because I was wrapping up with you, but now you've led me down another path.
Yeah, sorry.
To put a bow on it, yes, he's retired to your point, and that's fair, but does any of this stem back to the lack of postseason successes with the expectations being higher? You don't score the last 2 games against LA. I'm not putting it on Mike Shildt. There's so much more in it. You score 5 runs against the Cubs. Again, it's not his fault they lost game 3. But failing to get where the organization has publicly stated they wanted to get, right, bring a World Series championship to the city of San Diego. Does this have anything to do with falling short when it matters most?
I don't believe that the retirement of Mike Shildt has anything to do with that at all. I don't. No. If that was going to be put somewhere, and I'm not saying that'd be fairly at all, then, probably be put on AJ Preller, right? I mean, what did Mike Shildt do? Like, certainly batting his, lefty 7-8-9 is not cause for firing. But I'm not saying you're saying that, but I'm honestly trying to ponder this as you say it. And I will just say flat out that my reporting says no, but also I just don't even see where it could make.
Okay. Well, we'll react to that coming up next. Also have to talk about the article that Kevin wrote that was published last night. A lot of stuff in there. We'll talk about that coming up next on Jon and Jim on San Diego Sports 716 live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, back here on Jon and Jim. SDFC's CEO Tom Penn's going to join me at 3:30. Annie Heilbrun's going to join me at 4:30. Talk about the the saga that is down at Petco Park. So Kevin wrote an article last night, and it was essentially talking about the dysfunction inside the clubhouse between Mike Shildt and some of the members of the coaching staff. I'll just read a little bit here. So Kevin wrote, nearly 20 sources, 12 of them who worked with Shildt on a daily basis during the season, have in recent months characterized Shildt as unyieldingly demanding of his coaching staff and the team support staff, and as having a tendency to micromanage and possessing a quick temper that is easily triggered by questioning or feedback. Now, I don't really have that much of a problem with maybe the unyielding demand of his coaching staff and micromanage a little bit. I mean, you're the manager of the team. Like, this falls on Mike Shilt's shoulders if they lose. So I don't have that much of a problem with it because he's the boss of the coaching staff. But when you get to the part of like quick temper, easily triggered by questioning or feedback, did you guys watch Mike Shilt's post-game pressers? Did you watch those? Should this surprise anybody? Like, I could have told you that. A lot of people could have told you that. Kevin also wrote, Shildt largely left governing of the clubhouse to players and made it a priority to exhibit patience and deference to them. He was, according to several people, often the opposite with his coaching staff and members of the support staff. Those people said that would sometimes happen within a matter of seconds as he berated a staff member before walking out into a clubhouse with a smile on his face. Not surprised at all. I mean, that's who Mike Shildt seems like he was. And let's just call a spade here. Dude was an a-hole. Like, I mean, they just call a spade here. The guy was an a-hole. I mean, is that really surprising to anybody that watched the post-game press conferences? Now, I get it. If you are a fan of this team and all you care about is winning, the guy can be the biggest a-hole on the planet as long as you win. And to Mike Shilt's credit, honestly, they did win, and they won a lot of games. The one thing I said about Mike Shildt is there's no denying he is a good manager. But everything that is surrounding that is the problem. And hey, man, to his credit, even though he was a total a-hole to his staff and was extremely thin-skinned and came off as times being a complete phony, they won baseball games. So, look, if you're a fan out there, and I understand it, there's a lot of fans out there that they couldn't care less about this stuff. Oh, the guy's an a-hole? How many games did they win? 90 plus? Okay, cool. They're in the postseason every year. Who cares? Be a D-bag. I don't care. But here's the problem is you can deal with that if you win and you stay here and you win at a high clip. Mike Shildt won and he quit after 2 seasons. So this is not a 10-year manager here. He was not here for over a decade. He was here for 2 seasons. He quit. Or he got fired, or he got pushed out. We'll never really know. As Kevin said, you heard him in last segment, maybe we'll never know the truth. The real truth, right? Interesting how that works. And interesting how that sounds, because that's exactly how it sounded in St. Louis. You know, the thing that he got pushed out of St. Louis was philosophical differences. And it's a little bit of the same here. So we'll talk more about this article. There's a lot to get into. Also, I know that the next course here, the next thing is who's the next manager of the team. We'll talk about that coming up next hour. Also, Tom Penn, CEO of SDFC, is going to join me at 3:30. Stay right here on Jon and Jim on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Staples. Game 3 of the ALCS between the Blue Jays and Mariners in Seattle is about 2 hours away from getting underway. At 5:08, it's going to be Shane Bieber going against George Kirby. Game 4 is set for tomorrow night at 5:33. Game 3 of the NLCS between the Brewers and Dodgers is set up for tomorrow at 3:08 in LA. The Brewers have yet to pick a starter, and Tyler Glasnow is going for the Dodgers. Make sure to catch SDFC Midweek live tonight at 6 o'clock. Adrian Darren will talk all things SDFC at 6 o'clock on your home for SDFC San Diego Sports 760. Today is not just any day, it's your lucky day. Staples Easy Day deals are extended. Now through October 18th, Easy Rewards members score up to 40% off more than 100,000 products in store and online. Head to your local Staples store or visit staples.com to save while supplies last. Staples, that was easy.
Getting you all set for that drive home. Let's just start the show. Here's Jon and Jim.
All right, hour 2 of Jon and Jim. Tom Penn's going to join me at 3:30. Annie's going to join me at 4:30. And I want to also talk a lot about the Aztecs this past weekend. So we'll get into that as well later this hour. I want to talk about the MLB postseason, which is pretty much looking like the Dodgers will win another World Series. So we'll talk about that later in the show as well. But sticking to the story around town here, which is the retirement/quitting of Mike Shildt from the Padres. You know, I had a good comment on YouTube that I wanted to get into, and this is 100% right. David on YouTube wrote this: if you're burnt out and you would say something like, or sorry, let me rephrase that. If you're burnt out, you would say something like, I'm stepping away from baseball. Instead, he said he was stepping away from the Padres. Tells you everything you need to know. 100% right. The wording matters. He did not say he's retiring from baseball. He says, I'm retiring from the Padres, which means he is quitting the Padres. That's what it was. That's what it is. And we probably will never know the full details of how this came to be. It's just, you know, I tell you, when I saw this news, Brent, I was floored, like completely shocked. He was the one guy that I was like, he's probably the safest in the organization to be returning. AJ Preller, he's the one, I don't know if he's going to return or not. And by the way, those questions, they still remain. They still remain, even though it kind of feels like right now to move off of Preller would be just insane. I don't know if I can put it past Eric Grupner and John Seidler, to be honest with you. I really don't. You know, we've seen everything with this franchise. So again, would anything surprise you at this point? Probably not. But yeah, I was completely floored by the news. I was like, well, hold on. Huh? I had to look like 3 times before being like, okay, yeah, this is real. And like actually trying to process it. It was crazy. Brent, you didn't even know until you got in the studio that day.
Yeah. I walked in and Mike Usher's like, well, too bad there's nothing you guys have to talk about today. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, Mike Shildt just retired from the Padres. I was like, what?
Like, excuse me?
Yeah, I didn't hear anything about it.
But talking more about this AC article, and by the way, you know, this entire article, good job by Kevin to report this, but I'll say this. If these things were going on in the season, why is nobody reporting that in season? Why does it take the end of the year before we start getting these pieces about, you know, dysfunction inside the clubhouse? I mean, seriously? You couldn't have reported this like during the season? I don't know. It's just weird. Anything. Anyway, I don't, at the end of the day, Brent, like, there's so many things out here. it's hard to believe one person. Like, it's really hard to say, I believe that person 100%. I think I can take pieces from everything and be like, I believe that. I don't know about that. And then I'll be like, I believe that. I don't know about that. But there's not one singular thing that I'm like, I believe that 100%. Now, if Jeff Passan came out with a piece and he, is probably the closest thing in baseball to 100% as it gets, then he would be the guy that'd be like, you know what? Yeah, that's what happened. But I'm sorry, Kevin, even with Kevin, and I'm sorry, Dennis, even with Dennis, even though Dennis is pretty spot on as well. Like, everything to me is wait, is that true? Like, I have to question almost everything I read. I can't just read something and be like, oh, that's true. I have my own opinions on things off of things that I've heard and seen. I mean, a lot of this stuff kind of matches up. I'm like, yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I could see Mike Shildt being a complete a-hole. Duh. But again, it is a lot of things that you have to kind of question before you even maybe believe it.
It's one of those things that, in a way, it kind of reminds me of Urban Meyer. Because remember when he left Florida with his undisclosed health condition,
right?
And then as soon as the Ohio State job opened up, he was cured.
Exactly.
So this is one, and Kevin kind of hinted at it when he was talking to John on Monday, that when it comes to coaches and managers in sports, no one's ever really retired.
No. Mike Shildt, the wording was the way it was for a reason. Okay, if he said I'm retiring from baseball, all right, that's completely different than I'm retiring from the Padres. And I guarantee you, because there are eight jobs open in baseball, I guarantee you, if, I don't know, the San Francisco Giants called up Mike Shildt in like a month and was like, hey, man, now, like, I know that you said you want to go and, be with your family and work on your health, but you want to be the manager?
That would be deja vu.
It would be deja vu.
I was firing the manager and then the Giants hiring him again.
Like, if another team asked Mike Shildt tomorrow to be the manager and it wasn't the Padres, you're telling me that he's just going to flat out say no without thinking about it first? Come on, stop it. The guy that was desperate to get one of these jobs again, the guy that said last year during his introductory press conference that the goal of his was to get back to this position and how important it was to him, especially with the way it ended in St. Louis, where he was there for forever, and how it hurt him that the Cardinals, the organization that he basically worked his way through to get to the position that he was in, said, yeah, you're fired. And now he got another opportunity. And just 2 years later, it's too much for him. Come on, stop it. Another thing that Kevin wrote, which, again, it's after the fact type of stuff, right? It's not in the moment. Like, it's after the fact, after he's gone. I've explained, dude, I never liked Mike Shildt. I said that while he was here, but I accepted that he was a good manager, and I knew he was a good manager. But all the stuff around Mike Shildt, I couldn't stand the guy. So when you see this, as Kevin wrote yesterday, sources suggest one of the coaches, who was that coach, was recently so upset after feeling insulted by Shildt that a fight nearly broke out. Shildt gained a rep as blunt and temperamental in St. Louis, where he was fired after an excellent season. In St. Louis, the feeling was he didn't treat the support staff appropriately. So the situation is somewhat similar. For any St. Louis fan out there that to this day was wondering what's the true and real story about why Mike Shildt got fired in St. Louis other than philosophical differences, those fans today are probably like, oh, took us a couple years, but maybe this is more close to what happened. So again, you can win a bunch of games, and that's great. And I understand that fans out there, that's all they care about, as I do too, to an extent, right? Like, hey, go and win. Just go and win. Winning cures all. Well, apparently it doesn't. Because all Mike Shildt did was win. And he got run out of St. Louis, and he got run out of San Diego for the same reasons. Thin-skinned. His temper was off the charts. He couldn't deal with disagreement. Right? Like, those things will wear people thin. And at some point, even the winning doesn't cure it all. And in this situation with Mike Shildt, that's kind of what happened here, it feels like. It kind of feels like, hey, look, even though we're winning a bunch of games, I can't deal with you anymore. You are a giant a-hole. I'll leave. I can't be around you. We're winning, but that doesn't cure everything. And we haven't even gotten into, like, oh, I don't know, the Manny Machado question, which is Manny, and how much did Manny's role play into this? And by role, I mean, it's hard to manage Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. Are those a couple reasons why this went down the way it did? Are they completely innocent bystanders here? My guess would be no. But it's questions that you got to ask. Like, Manny has not had a manager in San Diego last longer than 2 years. You know, at some point, we have to try to find common denominators. We have to do process of elimination of why this keeps happening here in San Diego. This is a pattern now. This is not a just random coincidence. This is a pattern. This is what this franchise is now known for. Dysfunction. Managers in and out the door, not lasting more than 2 years. Drama. And what are the common denominators here? Well, there's two. It's Manny and it's AJ. The crazy part is, if one or both of those guys were on this team, they're not winning. That's the crazy part. So, as I continue to talk about this today, and we'll talk about it more, and we'll get to some candidates here later this hour, it's just, the whole thing is fishy, guys. The whole thing is fishy. And I mean, going forward, do you honestly think that the next manager isn't going to end up having some type of drama follow them and some kind of toxic ending? If you don't, you haven't been paying attention, because that's all that happens around here. All right, coming up next, Tom Penn, SDFC's CEO, is going to join me at the bottom of the hour. But San Diego State rolled Nevada over the weekend. I have not gotten a chance to talk about it, and I want to talk about the Aztecs and their start to their season, where they're 5-1 on the year, just playing some really good football. We'll talk about that coming up next, right here on Jon and Jim on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, tonight at 6 p.m., right here on San Diego Sports 760, it's SDFC Midweek Live. Hear from head coach Mike Ibarra, as well as interviews with players and coaches. Find out the latest club and MLS information. SDFC Midweek Live tonight at 6 p.m. on your home for SDFC, San Diego Sports 760. SDFC CEO Tom Penn's going to join me at the bottom of the hour. So over the weekend, San Diego State at Nevada. Last week, I said, look, I needed to see from the Aztecs a good road performance to really get behind them. They have shown that they can be one of the better teams at home in the country. I mean, they have been incredible at home, over 40 points per game. Their defense is suffocating. It does not give up points. Like, they have been incredible at home. But on the road at Washington State, things snowballed on them, was not good. And then at NIU, I mean, it wasn't pretty. It was the opposite of pretty. It was probably one of the ugliest wins you'll ever see when they won 6-3. And I'm like, okay, I need to see them perform closer to what they look like at home on the road than what they've looked like on the road so far. Like if they went to Nevada, Brent, and they won like 14-6, I'd be like, okay, cool. But that's a little bit of an issue for me. Nah, they boat raced them. They looked incredible. Every facet of the game. Special teams, offense, defense, they were incredible.
I was going to say they were up 14-0 before CBS Sports even switched over because the game before it ran long.
Punt return for a touchdown. Interception return for a touchdown. Their offense was humming. Jaden Denegal, again, extremely efficient. Multiple touchdown passes. Jordan Napier, he's on the Blitnikoff list as one of the best wide receivers in the country now. I'm a believer of this Aztec football team. That's it. I'm a believer. I am all in on this Aztec football team. How could you not be? Like, they have shown you, I feel like, everything that you'd want to see as a fan to get you to be all on board with this football team. They're scoring a bunch of points. They have a quarterback who's efficient. They have a great running game. Their defense is incredible so far this year. Special teams has been pretty flawless. They have a top wide receiver. They have a running back room that is interchangeable, but every single guy can, put up 100 on the ground. I mean, they are humming right now. And it just makes me that much more excited coming off of this bye week that they have, leading into Fresno State, coming up here in a week and a half on the road, that if they can win that game, Brent, one, they'll be bowl eligible. They'll be 6-1 on the year. They'll be sitting close to the top of the Mountain West Conference behind UNLV if UNLV continues to remain undefeated. And then I feel like now we have to start talking about Mountain West Conference championship. Like, I feel like if they beat Fresno State next week, that conversation is 100% on the table. And I also think the conversation of potentially, it's obviously going to be tough, but potentially winning out and being in the conversation, just in the conversation. I'm not saying if they won out, they would absolutely make it, but just being in the conversation for the college football playoffs. I know it is a crazy thing to say because of how this team has performed over the last few years. But like I said, what have they not shown you yet? Like, what's the one thing you're waiting to see if you're an Aztec fan, right? Like, what is it, Brent?
For nothing really. For me, they've improved in every asset compared to last year.
Every single part of the game they've improved on. You're absolutely right.
And it was kind of weird. I joked to Fletch on Saturday that the last 2 games we've been favored, and I said that's kind of been weird because we haven't been favored in a while the last few seasons. And It was kind of weird being up by 4 touchdowns in the first half of a game and scored 4 touchdowns in the first half of a game.
What was the score at the half? 34-0?
Yeah, it's like 34-35 nothing.
They won 44-10?
Yeah, because they kicked a field goal and they had a garbage touchdown.
I mean, look, guys, this Aztec team, if you haven't already, jump on the bandwagon. Seriously. They're fun. They're exciting. They score a bunch of points. They play great defense. They have a kicker that has a 21 straight field goal make streak going on right now. Longest in the nation. They have one of the best wide receivers in college football. They have one of the best defenses in college football. Like, hearing things about this program earlier on this season, before the season started, about, hey, they're going to be better. Okay. I needed to see it. And they've shown it. So San Diego State has a bye week this week. They play Fresno State the following week. And if they can get past Fresno State on the road, Fresno State did lose, I believe, to Colorado State. I know they lost. They're not going into this game with identical records. I know that. They're 5-2. San Diego State 5-1. But they get past Fresno State, guys. Game's on. Game is on. And that game has just got that much more exciting and important for this Aztec football team, and this year especially. All right, coming up next, San Diego FC's CEO Tom Penn's going to join me. Stay right here on Jon and Jim on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app.
The support is sponsored by Macy's Backstage. Game 3 of the ALCS between the Blue Jays and the Mariners in Seattle is tonight at 5:08. It's going to be Shane Bieber on the hill going against George Kirby. Game 4 of the series is set for 5:33 tomorrow night. Game 3 of the NLCS between the Brewers and Dodgers is set in LA for tomorrow at 3:08. The Brewers are undecided on who they're going with their starter, and it's Tyler Glasnow going for LA. Make sure to catch SDFC Midweek Live tonight with Adrian and Darren. The guys talk all things SDFC tonight at 6 o'clock on your home for SDFC, San Diego Sports 760. Macy's Backstage is a whole department inside your Macy's store where you can find the latest fall looks, all for under $30. With new arrivals every day, you never know what amazing deals you'll find. Don't wait. Find a location at macy'sbackstage.com.
All right, back here on Jon and Jim. The final regular season match for SDFC will be this Saturday night on the road versus the Portland Timbers, 6 p.m. kickoff time. You can listen to that match right here on San Diego Sports 760. And it's great to be joined right now by SDFC's CEO, Tom Penn, on the line. I'll just start here, Tom. You know, we are inching closer to the postseason. We'll see how it shapes out this coming Saturday with the seedings and everything and how that goes. But first off, I mean, your initial thoughts on just the entirety of the regular season, you know, in year one, and how fast this thing started to where you guys are at now on the cusp of being a 1 seed and you know, having some really high hopes here of, you know, competing and winning an MLS Cup in year one.
Yeah, couldn't be more happy with the result. It's an interesting dynamic to be in a moment where you sort of reflect on the season as if it's over. You know, you look at the full body of work and you think we set a record for an expansion team in so many ways, and, you know, we're in it to win it. And then that's up against this fact that we're still in it to win it, you know, and we're not done yet. And you want to stay focused on the moment. But if you take a little bit of a step back and reflect on the regular season, I think win, lose, or draw on Saturday, it's been a resounding success. And then, you know, we look to get a result on Saturday, lock up maybe the 1 seed, 2 seed, could be the 3 seed. Worst case is 4 seed, pretty good spot to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get some home matches here at Snapdragon Stadium. Tom Penn joining me here on Jon and Jim, SDFC's CEO. You know, when you look at the start of the year and the players that, you know, were on this club for year one, and then we are at the point of the year where we're having some guys like Anders Dreyer being put in the MVP conversation. For that to happen in year one and have some really, really talented players on this club. I mean, Anders Dreyer this year, it's been an incredible story. What have you made of the play and the players that you've brought in here? Pretty much all, you know, performing at the highest level to get you guys where you are right now.
For starters, he's played every single game, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's just been there night in and night out. And then from the noisy start at the Galaxy with the goals and the, you know, the fanfare that came with that, he has just consistently shown up and delivered. League leading in goal contributions, right there in the MVP race. Too bad he's up against this guy named Messi.
Oh yeah, that
otherwise,
guy.
Yeah. Otherwise, I think it'd be his. And it was fun because nobody really knew of Anders. And I remember hearing from our sporting folks, from Tyler Heaps and his recruitment team, they really, really were bullish on him and the way that he fit our style. And he's right at the peak of his career, right? I mean, he's in his mid-20s, which are the boom years. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be fun to keep watching him evolve and consistently deliver.
Absolutely. Tom Penn, SDFC CEO, joining me here on Jon and Jim. So one thing that I've noticed, and this is off the field here, Tom, is you guys have done a phenomenal job getting out in the community and setting up watch parties and events and, you know, getting involved with local soccer groups. Like, how has that process been for you to in year one, in such a short amount of time, really get out in the community and become a pretty big piece of the soccer community here in San Diego?
It means a lot if you really, I know you do feel that way if you're saying it. That's been the objective, was to try to become, as soon as we could, a club for the entire community, and not just downtown, not just the beach. From the very beginning, Cody Martinez, the chairman of Sequan, said, hey, San Diego's a big county. There are a ton of fans out east. I grew up in El Cajon, so his directive was build this club for the whole county. And we were very intentional about how we designed our logo, for example. It's got 18 lines in it that intersect, woven into one. That represents the 18 cities in San Diego County. And then we did that Chrome Ball tour where we went to each of those communities and visited and did an event. And then you mentioned the engagement with the local soccer community. I mean, soccer thrives in San Diego at the youth level, at the adult level. It's been a lot of fun to just live that and get to know and be a part of the entire soccer community across the county.
Tom Penn joining me here on Jon and Jim. Tyler Heaps, Mikey Varas, they are the guys that have been leading the way this year, especially Mikey. What can you say about the job that they've done here in year one, when I'm sure behind the scenes, it's probably at times felt pretty chaotic, but these two guys have led the way here to get you to the point where you're at right now.
They sure have, and they get so much credit. The way that they've been a dynamic duo, and it's really both of them, each in their role for the first time, which is very unusual, especially in an expansion situation. But they're both so talented that in working with the Mansours and the big decision makers, as we laid this out, we thought both Tyler and Mikey were super talented and able to lead in their various capacities. And then you put them together and you have this incredible synergy between the two of them. It's a big, important part of this, the way they embraced the Right to Dream way. And they went on the road together and visited Denmark and Egypt and Ghana and really got to know what Right to Dream was truly all about, and then figured out a way to express that within the MLS game, the American way, the San Diego way. And so they've just been exceptional together. They're fully aligned on all decisions. And I've been around pro sports a long time in various sports, and to see this kind of partnership leading soccer operations, there's no surprise that we're so competitive right away with that leadership.
When did you know, or when did you feel like this could be a special season?
I felt it coming out of training camp. When I talked with Mikey and Tyler about what they had seen and what they were most excited about, Mikey's answer was the connection between Anders and Irving. Chucky and Dreyer as a combination excited him the most. And I thought, oh man, that is a good answer, because that's where our investment is. And that's where the difference-making talent is. And when I heard that, I thought, you know what, we could be really, really good if we can get out of the blocks and get going. And then lo and behold, you remember how we started. And then I'm just not talking opening match. I'm talking that first sequence until the little dip that we had. We came out and made a lot of noise and got a lot of attention.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just kind of like shot out of cannon right away, and haven't really looked back since. And, there's an opportunity this weekend. If SDFC wins at Portland and Vancouver loses against Dallas, then SDFC is the 1 seed. As you said, there's multiple scenarios here, but what we're rooting for on Saturday is as a Vancouver loss and an SDFC win, so we can secure that 1 seed for the postseason. Again, final match of the regular season for SDFC on the road this Saturday night versus the Portland Timbers, 6 p.m. kickoff time. You can listen to that match right here on your home of SDFC, San Diego Sports 760. Tom, congratulations on the year so far. Good luck on the rest of the way, and hopefully, SDFC can secure a 1 seed and have a long postseason run to hopefully an MLS Cup. We'll talk to you down the road and have a great rest of your day. All right.
You got it. Thank you.
All right, there's Tom Penn, CEO of SDFC, joining me there. Yeah, this club has broken records this year. They have been amazing. They have MVP candidates. They have, I'm sure, coaches of the year candidates, executive of the year candidates. And if we get to Saturday and we have a Vancouver loss versus Dallas and an SDFC win versus Portland, then they are the 1 seed. That's incredible. Like, just if you told me that 8 months ago, I'd be like, wait, what? They have a chance at the 1 seed? Yeah, it's just been a phenomenal year. And, hopefully for SDFC fans and SDFC, this thing doesn't end shortly. Hopefully this continues. And even if it did end shortly, right? There's nothing but being proud of this club. You can't be anything but proud for what they have accomplished in year one and excited for the future. All right, coming up next, the MLB postseason. We're in the NLCS and the ALCS. Both series are 2-0. We'll talk about that and why the Dodgers are 100% going to win the World Series again. That's all coming up next right here on Jon and Jim on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, so game 3 of the ALCS tonight in Seattle with the Mariners having a 2-0 series lead over the Blue Jays. Game 3 between the Dodgers and Brewers tomorrow afternoon in LA. 3:08 first pitch. Dodgers have a 2-0 lead. Game 4 of the ALCS tomorrow night, 5:30 in Seattle. And the biggest takeaway from this past weekend, Brent, is that the Dodgers are going to win the World Series again.
Yeah.
Have a great rest of your night, everybody. That's it. It's over.
The Brewers jinxed themselves.
How did they jinx themselves?
Because when they did their post-game photo after they beat the Cubs, they hung
the L.
They hung the L flag, and they haven't won since. And they got kind of ripped through the coals from national media about, come on, guys, you didn't have to do this. And now you just kind of look like jerks. And since they did that, they haven't won.
So I've seen a lot on social media and about the Dodgers and their payroll. It is what it is. There's nothing anybody could do about it. All right.
Dude, here's my thing with that real quick. Going into this series, the Brewers bragged about their small payroll and how
I know
how it was
David versus Goliath.
Yeah, and how great it is. Look at our small little payroll.
Bunch of nobodies,
yeah,
bunch of
and
plumbers.
these nobodies are going to go and beat all these high-priced, overpaid, divas. And now that they're down 2-0, and I was like, oh, well, what do you expect us to do? We can't compete with this payroll. It's like, well, you weren't saying that 2 days ago. It was like 2 days ago, you guys were bragging about your small payroll. Now you're like, well, we can't win with our payroll.
It's wild that you have a $200 million pitcher and then a $176 million pitcher and then a $700 million pitcher and then a $150 million pitcher as the starting rotation for the Dodgers. Last year the Dodgers won on the back of their bullpen. Their bullpen last year was incredible, as all Padres fans would know. This year they're going to win the World Series on the back of their starting pitching. 100%. And Dave Roberts knows it. He knows that he is going to basically ride this starting pitching staff out the entire way. You don't see pitchers in the postseason have complete games. Blake Snell going 8 innings the other day in game 1? What? That's Dave Roberts knowing I'm not going to risk it with my bullpen. I'm going to use these guys, and I'm going to use them basically more than I've used them all year long.
Well, especially when you look at game 1, they went to use their bullpen for like the 1 inning and they almost blew it.
I know.
And they had to go through like almost at least 2 pitchers.
They went through
3.
Roki Sasaki and Blake Trinan. And honestly, it should have.
Dude didn't move.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just a switch right now. I mean, the Dodgers are going to win this thing because they're starting pitching. And Blake Snell, I mean, say whatever you want about Blake Snell. He's figured it out. I did not like Blake Snell when he was here. I said, don't touch this guy with a 10-foot pole in free agency. No way in hell am I giving him a massive contract. The dude's hurt. He never shows up at the start of the year. And he doesn't give you more than 5-6 innings. And he's figured it out, man. He has absolutely figured it out where this guy is nails. I mean, you saw it. He won a Cy Young here in his final year in San Diego. Then he went to San Francisco, started out the year, I believe, injured or not ready to pitch, and then goes out, throws a no-hitter that year. This year, same situation. When the dude's healthy, probably the nastiest pitcher in baseball. And then, oh, by the way, who's behind him? Yamamoto. Who's behind Yamamoto? Tyler Glasnow. Who's behind Tyler Glasnow? Your $700 million player in Shohei Ohtani. Good luck. Brewers, they're done. It's over. Their season's over. The Dodgers are going to the World Series. Even with Shohei Ohtani turning into Jake Cronenworth at the plate. Like, even with Ohtani doing absolutely nothing this postseason at the plate, they're going to steamroll their way to another World Series. It's going to happen. The sooner we accept it, the sooner we can just move on.
Blue Jays cooked as well.
Blue Jays, I'm not going to say they're cooked because of this. The Mariners, while I want Seattle, like Seattle's not my team. Seattle is the team that I'm rooting for to win the World Series. I think a lot of people are going to be rooting for Seattle or maybe Toronto. Brewers, they're cooked. But I think a lot of people are going to be rooting for Seattle here. Okay. If they win tonight, if they win tonight, have a 3-0 series lead. Yeah, series is over. But they lose tonight, completely different ball game. I don't think that series is over. I don't. Because I think that Seattle, this is all still new for them. Like, they could get tight. Now, they weren't tight in games 1 and game 2. Games 1 and game 2, game 1 is a little bit back and forth as far as, the pitching matchup went. It was a low-scoring game. The pitching was incredible. But game 2, it was just like a slugfest for them. Julio Rodriguez home run, 3-run homer. Cal Raleigh's hitting homers. Polanco's turned into a postseason superstar for the Mariners. Their pitching has been really good. Their offense has been equally or better. But I still am just a little worried about the hey, we got tight factor. So until they get up 3-0 here, if they win tonight, or they're up 3-1, even 3-1, you're like, a little scared, right? Because game 6 and 7 will be back in Toronto. I think that's how the schedule would work, right? 2-3-2, is it 2-3? It's 2-3-2, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, game 6 would be back in Toronto. Yeah, game 5 would be in Seattle. So it's 2-3-2. So now the Blue Jays have to win 2 out of 3 in Seattle. I think they can do it. So that's why I'm not saying that series is over yet. Dodgers series, that's done. It's cooked. It's over.
The only reason I wouldn't say that Seattle and Toronto's done yet is, Toronto, they scored a lot of runs in that Yankee series.
Yeah, they have the capability of doing that with the snap of a finger.
Yeah, exactly. And, Milwaukee struggled to score runs against what was left of the Cubs pitching staff. They're struggling to score runs against the Dodgers pitching staff. So, they just can't score. So at least Toronto has the ability to score.
Yeah. And I think, the best matchup for me as of right now in the World Series, I think would be Seattle and LA. I think if you said, all right, give me one team that that could take down the Dodgers or at least have a chance, I would say Seattle. If the Blue Jays were hot, yeah, sure. Max Scherzer is going to start game 3, 40-something-year-old game 3 on the road. Okay. But let's be real here, guys. Unfortunately, the Dodgers are going to win again. And we have to accept it. Padres, all you Padres fans out there, San Diego, got to take it on the chin. Nothing anybody could do about it. Now, it might make you even more upset that the Padres had the vision literally in the palm of their hands, and they could have changed the outcome potentially, and they blew it, and then Mike Shildt quits. But at the end of the day, even if the Dodgers went in as a 5 seed, are we really going to sit here and say that they weren't going to win the World Series? They were the favorites going in. They're the favorites right now. Any Dodger fan out there that's trying to use the underdog story because, they're the 3 seed and they would play on the road here if they got to the World Series against Seattle and if they started, they don't have home field advantage against the Brewers. Give me a break. You're the favorites. You're always going to be the favorites. You're expected to win. You have the most money. You have the highest payroll. You have some of the best players. The Dodgers are going to get to a point where if it's almost like it's not excitement when they win the World Series, it's almost like relief. Like that's where and I know we got to wrap up here this hour, but that's where I was at with the Warriors at the end. They would go to the finals and they would win finals, and I would be like, yay, but it's more of a relief, and the players feel that way too. Now the Dodgers could cakewalk to the World Series and lose only 1 game, but still, at some point, the Dodgers winning these World Series are going to be more of a relief than excitement for Dodgers fans. But at the same time, We're all just going to have to accept it. Maybe the only time the Dodgers won't win a World Series the next couple of years will be the lockout in 2027. All right, coming up next, we have the wrap. Also, Annie Halburn's going to join me at 4:30. Stay right here on Jon and Jim on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Mattress Firm. Game 3 of the ALCS between the Blue Jays and Mariners is set to get underway in about an hour at 5:08. It's going to be Shane Bieber on the hill going up against George Kirby. Game 4 of the series is set for tomorrow at 5:33. Game 3 of the NLCS between the Brewers and the Dodgers is tomorrow afternoon at 3:08. The Brewers have yet to pick a starter, and it's going to be Tyler Glasnow going for the Dodgers. Make sure to catch SDF Midweek Live with Adrian and Darren tonight. They'll talk all things SDFC at 6 o'clock on your home for SDFC, San Diego Sports 760. Hurry, Mattress Firm's Upgrade Your Sleep sale ends soon. See their sleep experts today to find your perfect bed for their premium selection and save big on better rest. Mattress Firm, they make sleep easy.
Getting you all set for that drive home. Let's just start the show. Here's Jon and Jim.
All right, hour 3 on Jon and Jim. Great hour lineup for you. Got Annie Halburn's going to join me at the bottom of the hour. The wrap coming up here in a moment. Also, I want to give away some tickets this hour as well. So stay tuned for that. We have some tickets to Hallow Scream at SeaWorld. Also, we have some tickets for the second annual Hallow Sprint 5K run on Sunday, October 19th. Is that correct, Brent?
Yes.
Okay, so we have those tickets to give away this hour, so make sure you're listening for that. But we've been talking a lot about Mike Shildt today. Duh, it's the biggest story in town. But I feel like it's kind of glossed over what should also be a massive story right now, and that is the future of AJ Preller. Like, do I think with the retirement / quitting from Mike Shildt, do I think this likely means AJ Preller will return? I do. But it's not 100%, guys. It's not. I am on the side of bring AJ back, sign him to a contract extension because of what he has built and what he has done here in the last, 4 years, building a roster that has made the postseason 3 of the last 4 seasons. He has turned around his career. He's gone from a general manager that could not get it done to a guy that is highly regarded in baseball. Robert Murray, you heard it earlier in the show. I think you did. But anyway, if you didn't, he said today that he regarded AJ Preller as one of the best general managers in baseball. And that's a credit to AJ. It took him a while. Now, he hasn't figured out the manager's position yet. That's a problem. And there seems to always be drama with this franchise while AJ Preller is in charge. But look, they win. They win. So the topic of, hey, is AJ going to stay long term? Is he going to sign a contract extension? Is still a massive story. We heard AJ yesterday, and you're going to hear from AJ in a second here. But there was no resolution on AJ's future yesterday, as we all knew there wasn't going to be. I mean, that was the most nothing burger of a end of the year press conference as you'll ever hear, especially after your manager quits. Am I wrong? I mean, that thing was a bunch of nothing for almost an hour long. But the questions have to be asked. And the question about AJ Preller's future, well, here's what he had to say.
To me, again, I think in terms of, my situation and the contract, obviously that'll be between me and ownership and, what that process looks like. And again, I think, we'll have those conversations here going forward. But, I think from, myself and the rest of the baseball ops group, a lot of confidence and faith in our roster, what we're trying to do, what we're trying to build. And that's going to be a big emphasis and focus here over the course of the next few months from our end, is putting a championship team on the field for next year and the future.
Okay, didn't really answer the question.
Do you view that
Oh,
though as
so
maybe
far.
a concern for potential your next manager who might not know, exactly what the future or the organization future of baseball ops is?
I mean, I think it's a really attractive job. I think it's obviously we, play in a beautiful ballpark. We've gets, everybody talks about the atmosphere has been created by the fans of San Diego. You get 3.5 million fans coming to the ballpark, year in, year out. It's as good an atmosphere as there is in the game. I think it's like I mentioned, it's a great organization. We produce players. We put talented rosters on the field. We go to the playoffs. I think it's the challenge of winning a World Series in a city that hasn't done it before. And we have some phenomenal players and staff. So it's I can only tell you, like, just in the last few hours, you get a lot of people reaching out. I think I think from my eyes, it's an attractive position and job, and I can tell from the interest that's been coming in and then some of the conversations that have happened here in the last few hours, like it's viewed.
Tell you what, I'm getting massive deja vu. Like, to the point where I'm like, we could probably replay the last 3 post, I guess, season or end of season pressers from AJ asked virtually the same question, and he'd give you virtually the same answer. Like, after that Bob Melvin situation got resolved and they essentially got rid of Bob, and Bob said he didn't want to basically be here anymore, and that was after the passing of Peter Seidler. Like, he said the exact same thing. Like, to a T. So again, he didn't answer anything. Again, he's not going to. He's really mastered the art of filibustering. Like, you're like, hey, AJ, yeah, you didn't answer the question. And then he'd be like, yeah, well, I mean, he's very good at that, guys. He has mastered that. But going forward, like, is AJ going to be here long term? Or is Grupner and John Seidler going to say, you know what, we actually want our guy in here? Because if you guys don't know it, it's the worst kept secret in this town with that organization, that Grupner and Preller, yeah, that ain't a happy relationship. So it's not. And with the power that Eric Grupner has gained inside the organization, you don't think that is going to play a role in potentially the future of AJ Preller? The adage of if you build it, they will come. That's what AJ Preller has done. Without that, Eric Grupner's not as successful as he is. He should probably have someone tell him that. He should probably have someone remind him that if the team isn't good, the numbers at the gate, the merchandise sales, the banana bread puddings, right? The City Connect jerseys that are being sold, you're not getting record numbers and record sellouts without a good baseball team. So I hope that someone reminds him of that. And I hope he gets put in his place a little bit. And I'm not saying AJ's perfect. He's not. By no means is he perfect. But if you were to ask me who's more important to that franchise, AJ or Eric Grupner, it's not even close. It's AJ Preller every single day of the week. And again, like I said, AJ's not perfect. He's got some massive flaws to the point where he can't keep a manager around here for longer than 2 freaking years. But you can find another Eric Grupner in a second. Okay? Eric is not a one of one. I would say AJ is closer to a one of one than Eric at what he does. You move on from AJ, good luck. Hope you have a plan. And if it's Mark Loretta, good luck. Won't be like AJ. And AJ would get a job in 20 minutes if they were to let him go. Just telling you. So going forward, if this organization and John Seidler and Eric Grupner decide that they're better off moving on from AJ, you better have a plan in place that's better than AJ. Because you got people around the industry like Robert Murray, who covers this sport as close as anybody, saying that he thinks AJ Preller is one of, if not the best general managers in the sport. I don't see anybody saying Eric Grupner is the best of whatever in the sport of baseball. Do you? I don't. I don't see magazines talking about Eric Grupner and how phenomenal he is at what he does. Not to say he's not good at what he does. He is very good at what he does. But what I'm saying is you can find another Eric Grupner. Sorry. And at some point, you have to find the root of whatever is the cause of the dysfunction down there at Petco Park. And if it's AJ, okay, it's AJ. But like I said, you can deal with a lot of stuff if you win. And right now, this team is dealing with a lot of stuff behind closed doors, and they're winning. Now, Mike Shildt just quit. My guess, it wasn't just he quit. It was probably a collaborative, hey, if you don't retire, we probably are going to move on from you. Just speculation. Not factual. Just my opinion. But if you move on from AJ, oh boy. Good luck. Good luck. All right, coming up next, Annie Halburn's going to join me at 4:30 to talk about the saga that is down at Petco Park. But coming up next, the wrap. So stay tuned for that. Also, giving away some tickets later in the hour as well to Hallow Scream at SeaWorld of San Diego. So stay tuned for that. But coming up next, the wrap right here on Jon and Jim on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, San Diego Sports 760 congratulates all our $5,000 winners in iHeart's Radio's Thank a Teacher powered by Donors Choose. There's still time for you to nominate a public school teacher making a difference. And maybe they'll be one of our next winners of $5,000 winners to make over their classrooms. Help us say thank you to the educators shaping our future. Nominate your favorite teacher now at iHeartRadio.com/teachers. All right, Annie's going to join me at 4:30 here, but right now, let's get to this, Brent.
It's time for the wrap. Presented by Sombrero Mexican Food. Check out their website at sombreromex.com.
Are the Aztecs a legit contender for the college football playoffs?
I think it's too early to say that. But if we get to a point where they are like 7-1 or 8-1, yeah. I'm not going to say that if they beat Fresno State in a week and a half at Fresno, we can start potentially talking about college football playoffs. I think what we can absolutely start talking about is Mountain West Conference title game and a Mountain West Conference championship. I think that is a legit thing to talk about if this team can beat Fresno State in a week and a half. But not quite yet on the college football playoffs. Like, it's going to take a little bit here. And it might even go up to like the end of the season where like you got to wait until to see if this team is going to finish, 10-1. Then even then it's like, well, we'll see. We'll see how other schools are in the Power, 5 conferences, right? So not yet, but Mountain West Conference Championship, I could talk about that. All right, next question, Brent.
Is tonight a must-win game for the Blue Jays?
100%. You never want to go down 3-0 in a series, especially with 3 straight games on the road. Road teams have won every single game in the ALCS and NLCS to start. So we'll see. I mean, but tonight is a must-win game for the Blue Jays. Absolutely. You can't go down 3-0 with 3 games on the road, or at least I guess 2 games if they lose tonight. Can't do it. You have to win tonight for the Blue Jays. You have to pray that Max Scherzer goes out there and pitches well for you. Because if you lose tonight, series is over. And Seattle's going to be crazy. They're up 2-0 in the ALCS. Like, yeah, Seattle is going to be insane tonight, as they should. Seattle, phenomenal atmosphere. And if they make the World Series, or if they get to the World Series and they clinch at home, oh my goodness. Would be incredible. All right, next question, Brent.
Is the Dodgers-Brewers series over?
Yeah, that's over. It's over. The thing with that series is the Dodgers just have the better players, and it's not even close. I mean, they're pitching. Good luck. Starting pitching, that is. And Dave's going to ride that starting rotation probably until another World Series. And that's smart of him. Like, hey, if a guy's at 90 pitches after 6, yeah, you're going 7. Right? You're not going to be hey, you gave us 6 solid innings, so we're going to go to the bullpen. No, it's, hey, what's your max today? Can you give me 110? Can you give me 100? Like, that is what is going to happen here, and that's how the Dodgers are going to win their second consecutive legit World Series, is riding their starting rotation, because they have the best starting rotation in the postseason remaining. And they also have one healthy, probably the best in baseball. All right, final question, Brent.
Who should the next Padres manager be?
So we'll get into more of it later in the show. Annie's going to join me coming up next. A couple names that have already been thrown out there: Ruben Niebla, Brian Esposito, AJ Ellis, Phil Nevin. His name has been brought up. I know Boch's name has been brought up. I think highly unlikely. Why would he want to work in this S show of an organization? He's too good for that. And I think, if I remember correctly, he was a name that was brought up after Jace Tingler But the reports were he didn't want to work with AJ Preller. Well, guess who's still here? AJ Preller. So who do I think the next manager is going to be? Who cares at this point? I'm like dead serious. Nothing jumps off the page to me. No name jumps off the page. Is like, they got to go get that guy.
I'll ask you the same thing I asked John on Monday. Would you rather they went with some, I'll in air quotes, established coach that's, kind of same old cast of characters that's out there and available, or would you rather have them go with some no name with no experience that's going to have to learn on the fly?
Do you mean like a Buck Showalter?
Sure.
Like a Joe Madden type, right?
Yeah. Or, it's like Ron Washington or any of these guys that, are always in the rotation for, available managers because they suck and they always get fired.
I guess the random no-name guy. I mean, my guess is whoever they hire, it's not going to end well. So it's like, just get it over with and just hire somebody. I mean, how could you have any confidence that whoever they hire is going to end in a World Series? Like, I don't. I just think that whoever they bring in, hopefully wins some games and takes the team to the postseason. Hopefully gets hot, gets on a run. But at the end of the day, I mean, the clock's going to be ticking on these guys. I mean, at some point, the dysfunction is going to creep back in and the drama, and we're going to be looking and talking about the same old story once again. It's happened 3 straight times now. 3 straight times where at the end of a manager's run here in San Diego, it's ended with drama, dysfunction, and just flat out, what the hell was that? Jace Tingler, Bob Melvin, Mike Shildt. You're really going to believe that's not going to end any other way? That's going to be different around here? That because the quote-unquote drama is now out with Mike Shildt, that there's just not going to be any more with a new manager? You're out of your mind. Hope I'm wrong. But it's a pattern, and it doesn't seem like the pattern's going to be changing. They got to prove a lot of people wrong. They got to have a manager in here longer than 2 years. Andy Green needs like a badge of honor for lasting here as long as he did. But it's also not a coincidence that when he got fired and the team quit on him in 2019 was the first year of Manny Machado. Interesting. All right. Andy Halpern's going to join me coming up next. They're right here on Jon and Jim on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Audible. Game 3 of the ALCS between the Blue Jays and the Mariners is about 45 minutes away. It's going to start around 5:08. It's going to be Shane Bieber on the hill going against George Kirby. Game 4 of the series is set for tomorrow night at 5:33. Game 3 of the NLCS between the Brewers and Dodgers is set for tomorrow afternoon at 3:08. The Brewers are still undecided with their starting pitcher, and the Dodgers are going with Tyler Glass now. Make sure to catch San Diego FC Midweek Live with Adrian and Darren. The guys will talk all things SDFC tonight at 6 o'clock on your home for SDFC, San Diego Sports 760. Audible's romance collection has something to satisfy every side of you. Fall for a brooding Duke, dive into a steamy romantasy series from Sarah J. Maas, or find the perfect rom-com from Lucy Chu. Start listening when you sign up for a 30-day trial at audible.com.
All right, back here on Jon and Jim. Jon, of course, is out for the rest of the week visiting some family members back home. But right now, we're joined by Annie Halloran of the UT. Thanks for joining me, Annie. Always appreciate it. I guess the first thing is, what the hell? What's going on? I mean, it's like it's the same story again. It's the drama once again, and I'm guessing you're not as surprised that there's always drama at the end of the year with this Padres franchise.
Jim, it's great to join you. And you're absolutely correct. I think we've all gotten a little bit used to it now that there's some kind of story, some kind of drama, some kind of soap opera thing happening with the Padres, especially in the off season. And it's what we've seen the last, 5 or 6 years, honestly. But I think it's, this week, having this Mike Shildt decision, though, was shocking. I mean, I think that AJ Preller said yesterday it was not shocking, it was surprising or something like that. Whatever you want to call it, I know most people didn't see that coming. You figured that there would be some kind of, who knows, exit talks about doing things a little differently next year, or having the offseason to work through some things, or to have some other goals for next season. But for a guy who has 2 years left on his contract, who is a baseball lifer, who worked really hard to get back into that manager position after he was let go by the St. Louis Cardinals, and just who is a very competitive person by nature, to see him, so quote unquote walk away or retire from the San Diego Padres was not something I had on my bingo card for this week.
Yeah, I think I did a triple take. I had to literally make sure Kevin was like a real person. I was like, wait, this is, did he just tweet this? It was crazy. Annie Halloran joining me here on Jon and Jim. So I guess the next thing here is, do you really believe it? Like, do you believe everything that's being said, or are you of the mindset that there's probably more to this story that maybe we'll never know, but there's at least a feeling of there's more to this story?
Yeah, I think that, like many people who have been around this for a while, there's usually more to the story, or there's something that's being omitted that comes out later, and we might never know it. I think you're right there. I think that we might never know it, and we don't know all the details of whatever agreement was drawn up when Mike said he's going to retire, or whatever word they used, or however it's going to go. I think that there could be more to it, and certainly we've been hearing more in terms of Mike's relationship with the coaching staff and what a lot of people were experiencing throughout the season. But in terms of did they have some kind of arrangement? Did the front office, I've heard from multiple people that AJ Preller was really surprised at this news, that he, didn't mention it to anyone beforehand. So if he did know about it, maybe he was tight-lipped, but there's reason to think he didn't know about it. And maybe they had, had some talks with Mike, and Mike had gone home and decided that he didn't want to go forward, it sounds like, under whatever, maybe he looked at the future and he said, well, I'm going to have to compromise what I think is the right way to do things in order to fit X, Y, Z, or, please this person or that person. That's what he's been kind of talking about this week, and decided not to. But there's so many. The interesting thing about this, if this is all again speculation on my part, because it could also just be face value. I mean, it could be that everything we're hearing is exactly what it is, and it went down exactly how it went down. And so I can't say that it's not that, but I do think a few things are curious. One is that Mike has already said that he's already going to come back to baseball. Like I said, he's a baseball lifer. I mean, this guy lives, breathes, eats baseball. It's all he's ever known. He has sacrificed a personal life, and I think he realizes some of that now. He's divorced now. He has no kids. There's a lot that he's given up for baseball, and that he has willingly done that. But he's already said he's coming back to the game, and perhaps more in the player development role. Okay, well, let's move that forward then. Why not? Why not say, hey, I don't want to manage anymore. I'm going to take a year off. I'm going to work on my health. And then I'm going to come back to the Padres and be in their player development department. And maybe there's reasons for that. Maybe he will come back and be part of the Padres player development department. But again, there's only 30 of these jobs, and to have 2 years left on your contract, and to say that you're going to come back to baseball in some other way, maybe not as a manager again, does leave a lot of, I guess, curiosity, in terms of what those next steps look like and where he'll be and how long he'll take. I mean, does that mean, he'll take a year off? Will he take 5 years off? Will he be back in baseball after this offseason? We don't know, so I think it's going to be interesting to watch how it unravels and see where he ends up. But he's already said that he's coming back to baseball, but just probably in a different way.
Yeah, the wording, as I said earlier in the show today, like the wording you have to pay attention to. He did not retire from baseball or from managing. Right. He retired from the Padres, which I kind of said he quit, because that's essentially what it is. It's just a nicer way of saying it. Retiring from the Padres means he quit. And it might be harsh, but that's essentially what happened here. For a guy that was Mr. Never Quit to essentially then quit, like that's where all the flags are waving in the wind for me when it comes to this whole situation, with Mike Shildt. Andy Halpern joining us here on Jon and Jim. So now we move on to, AJ Preller. I mean, before the bombshell on Monday morning of Mike Shildt, quote unquote, retiring, the biggest question was this offseason was the future of AJ Preller. Now with Mike Shildt, removing himself from the equation here, do you think there's a better chance that AJ sticks around for a longer period of time? Or do you still think that question is a legitimate one to ask right now, and that it potentially could be up in the air?
I think it's a little bit up in the air. I mean, the Union Tribune reported yesterday that it's an almost certainty. This was a Jeff Sanders story with Kevin AC contributing, that AJ is getting an extension. They're working on the extension right now. So for all we know, he is going to get an extension, and that is moving forward, or at least that's been what's been said in terms of what's been said to the reporters, or to the Union Tribune. What I think is an X factor here a little bit is, has anybody been talking to AJ? I mean, if other teams want to talk to Preller, my understanding is they've got to get permission from the Padres. And is there anything going on that we don't know about? Are there other teams that might be interested that maybe have asked for permission? Does AJ want to stay? Does he want an extension? I think that he really does love San Diego. I think that he's really enjoyed everything he's done here. And I do think he's an integral part of the equation. There's pros and cons to AJ Preller. He definitely is not perfect, but I give him credit for what he has built. And yes, for a while there, there was an open checkbook, and there was a lot of influence from Peter Seidler. And some of these contracts, honestly, aren't even AJ's contracts. And he has made some mistakes. There's no doubt about it. You look at Preller, and he's definitely made some mistakes. But the last year or two, I think that he's redeemed himself in a lot of ways and helped kind of make this a machine that churns out the chance to be competitive and to make a deep World Series run, or to make a deep postseason run each year. So I think that you have to kind of ask yourself, if you want him gone, do you know someone? And I'm not saying that there aren't great baseball minds out there. There are, and there's people that you can plug and play into that role. They're not going to be AJ Preller, but they could be better. They could be worse, just like a manager, right? We just don't know. But I don't know, who they're kind of targeting for that, if that's the case. So my guess here is that he's going to be extended, and I would think it's maybe 2 years or something like that. But there's always an X factor of, is he talking to other teams? Does he even want to be here?
Yeah, and it kind of brings me back to, the Mike Shildt thing, and even going back to Bob Melvin. Like, if an organization really wants to keep somebody, they're going to do everything they possibly can to keep them. Like,
yes.
The Bob Melvin situation, Peter Seidler wanted Bob Melvin to stay, and then he unfortunately passed away. And then the Padres said, "Oh, Bob, if you want to go talk to other teams, go talk to their teams," which is code for, we don't want to fire you, but we also don't want you. Like, and then the same thing happened, I feel, with Shildt. Shildt retires, quits. Did anybody in the organization, did AJ like put his foot down and be like, "Dude, can you please think about this? Like, we really want you here." Or did they just go, "Okay"? And now it kind of feels like, as you said, with AJ Preller, like if they really want AJ Preller around, they're going to fight for him. And it's just
correct.
Yeah. So it's just a weird situation. I'm sorry, go.
I don't mean to interrupt you, Jim, but you know what? I just want to say that because I don't want it to come across like he doesn't want to be here. But you're saying a point that I should have made, which is, yes, like if he is talking to other teams or there's something like that going on, it's because he doesn't feel comfortable with whatever might be happening here, or that he is going to have a long-term future here, or a future that gives him a chance, to kind of put some roots down past a year or two or whatever. You don't really want to be the lame duck guy, So to your point, I think that's something that, if they really do want him here, then they are going to be courting him and giving him something that he can live with and something that makes him, feel like he's definitely part of the future here for the Padres, and not just kind of, I guess, bridging the gap until John Seiler or Eric Greupner brings in the guy that they really want, So that is something for sure to look at. And I do think that's just very quickly on the Mike Shildt thing. I do think that's something also to consider is, with all the reporting that's come out about Mike Shildt now, it's like, it just seems awfully convenient.
Yeah, very.
That like they kind of wanted him, it's like they weren't all that keen on what was going on anyways. Again, and when you listen to Mike Shildt's words, his words are important. He says repeatedly, "I didn't have it in me to go for another 90-win season plus World Series championship run." And so he's very deliberate about that. Yeah. Like, he didn't have it in him to do what he thought would be necessary to go another 90-plus wins and a World Series run based on what was going on in his mind in the organization and the fans and the media and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It just, to me, it doesn't really pass the smell test, to be honest with you. It's just little odd and little weird how this whole thing kind of shaped up in the last 48 hours or so. So look, we have to move forward. Obviously, the franchise is going to hire another manager, whoever hires that person. So who do you think right now goes to the top of that list? We haven't heard many names. We've heard some names, but in your opinion right now, Annie, it's very early in the process. Throw out some names that you think could be potential candidates.
Yeah, it's a good question. And I'm going to kind of answer and then give a few thoughts there. So internally, they're going to look. They're going to give these guys a chance. So Ruben Niebla, AJ Ellis, whoever internally they look at that they think could be a possibility here. Because ultimately, I think this is okay, if you're the Padres, and there's a few things that it depends on. Number one, you need to get a manager that is confident and that is authentic and that knows what he's doing, because this is a veteran clubhouse. And there's one thing I've learned in this manager carousel that's happened. It is that they sniff out the fake, or the guy that doesn't know what he's doing, or the person that doesn't have a plan, or maybe someone who's more performative, like, isn't super confident. So he's flipping over tables and he's yelling at people and just making everything very performative. Like, they sniff that out in a heartbeat.
Like Mike Shildt.
If you get someone who's
sorry.
I think Mike Shildt, they because he was such a player's manager.
Yeah. Because
that was the one place that he really was always positive and was always backing them and was always whatever. It was that clubhouse, right? But more someone I would say that is inexperienced, or maybe that is like running a million drills because they don't know any better, or who knows, things like that, where it's like players who are been around the block.
Yeah.
Yeah, the eyewash. Thank you. That's a better way to put it. So that's number one. Number two, what is the Padres' budget? Are they going to be able to afford a top tier manager? Will they give that person a good contract? Because if not, then you're looking at someone who is either a little more inexperienced and wants a chance, or B, wants a second chance like a Mike Shildt and is desperate for that second chance. And I was listening to, was it Joe Madden? There was someone on Foul Territory this morning who I thought made a really good point, where it was like, clubs more and more these days are looking for someone who has less experience, because the front office wants to be able to exert more power and more influence over what's going on. So sometimes like experience can be a detractor, and that's not just in managing. Unfortunately, now that is throughout the organization. You can see that, and that's not, I'm just not just saying that that's the Padres. You can see that throughout baseball. So, and I don't know that it is the Padres. Maybe they will really value experience. Maybe they will really value paying, more money for the more experienced coach or manager that can take them, or that has on his resume multiple postseason runs, maybe a world championship run, So I don't know. I have no idea what that front office is valuing or not valuing, or what their budget allows. But in my mind, that's really what you want to go for here. You want to get someone who's got a resume, who's got and if it's internal, I understand like Ruben Niebla doesn't have that, but internal, what you do have is continuity, and you have someone who understands the clubhouse, and you have someone who's been around the game and the organization for a while. And I think there's a ton of value in that. So I guess that would be the exception to the rule. But if you're going outside the organization, I really believe you need someone who's got a resume, and will the Padres, be able to go out and really pay for that guy or bring him in? I don't know.
Well, we'll probably be talking about this in 2 years again anyway, so we'll probably just save this clip.
Jim, that's a big question, though. I think if you are someone texted me this on, can't say who, but last night was saying, well, what does it matter? If you're coming in, you might get blown out in a few years, so you're just either trying to get yourself another chance, or you're trying to, pad your own resume and your own experience a little bit. I hope not. I hope not for the Padres' sake. I hope they're able to keep someone for a long time. But I think that could be a question in whatever candidate is available in their mind.
Yeah, well, seventh time's a charm, Annie. So we'll see what happens here. It's never a dull moment in Padres land. So I'm sure we'll have some more things to talk about later this offseason, winter meetings, new manager, and we'll catch up with you down the road. All right, Annie?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, Annie. There's Annie Halbrin of the UT right there. All right. Caller number 8 right now, 877-767-4760. Caller number 8. You have won a pair of tickets to Hallow Scream at SeaWorld San Diego. You have to call right now, 877-767-4760. Caller number 8. You've won a pair of tickets to Hallow Scream at SeaWorld. More coming up next on Jon and Jim right here on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app.
Hey guys, it's Schaefer again, and there is no better time than now to get down to your local Toyota dealer with new vehicles arriving daily, including their most popular cars, trucks, and SUVs. We'll get back to the trucks in a moment, but whatever kind of vehicle you're looking for, hurry into your Toyota dealer today, because it is Trucktober at your Toyota dealer. The best time to get into a new Toyota truck. They've got the largest inventory of Tacomas and Tundras ready to roll. The Tacoma is known for its legendary toughness, off-road capability, and everyday efficiency, perfect for weekend adventures or just tackling your to-do list. And the Tundra brings serious power, impressive towing capacity, and bold design, plus the latest tech and comfort features. Whether you need a truck that's built for the trails, built for work, or built for your family's next adventure, Toyota's got you covered this Trucktober. We make it easy. See your Toyota dealer today.
All right, a lot of good stuff there with Annie. You know, the point of if an organization really wants to keep somebody, they will fight to keep that person. Did they fight to keep Mike Shildt? Or was Mike Shildt like, you know what? You can tell me anything and it doesn't matter. I'm gone. Or were they like, oh no, you're retiring? Okay. You know, like, was it that? Because it kind of feels like it was that.
They passively aggressively didn't want him to leave.
They're like, oh man, no,
Mike,
no, don't go.
Isn't so?
Don't go, Mike. Yeah, I kind of feel like it was more of that than, are you kidding me? But still, you know, with AJ Preller, if the organization really wants to keep AJ, they'll fight to keep him. And you know what takes the blame away from an organization, or at least the heat from an organization, if you know, a manager or a general manager end up leaving, is, hey, he wanted to leave us. We didn't want that, right? Mike Shildt quit. He retired. So everyone's like, oh, Mike Shildt quit. He retired. So no one's looking at the organization as to like, hey, did you guys like push him out? And if AJ leaves, it's going to be the same situation. AJ wanted to leave us. AJ decided to leave, not the other way around, which would be, we didn't really want to keep AJ.
Well, if that was the way it went, it didn't work very well, because otherwise Shildt would have had to go on MLB radio or whatever this morning or yesterday and tell everyone, oh, I just want to squash all the rumors that, you know, that I got fired, that I, you know, had all these rifts in the clubhouse. It wasn't true. You know, I love AJ. He's great. You know, if that was the case, he wouldn't have had to go on and kind of do, you know, damage control for the team that he doesn't work for anymore.
I'll tell you this. The story's not done with the Mike Shildt retiring / quitting. All right. It's not done. We'll move on here in San Diego to the next manager and the next manager and the next manager. Okay. But when this story becomes like, okay, this was a bunch of BS, is if Mike Shildt ends up managing again in the big leagues. If Mike Shildt ends up managing in the big leagues again in his life, then this whole retirement story and, you know, the grind and all this stuff, which I do believe is partly true, because guess what? Everybody in the baseball world as a coach or a manager, like, they're going through it. So I don't discount that at all. But, you know, if he becomes a manager again, this whole entire thing is complete BS. Complete BS. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to, you know, the story is not done here with Mike Shildt. If Mike Shildt ends up never managing again in his life, all he does is like advisor roles, or, you know, works in like a minor league capacity or scouting departments or whatever, right? Which is not as demanding as being the manager of a baseball team for 6 months out of the year. Then you know what? I'll tend to lean towards more of a, hey, I kind of believe Mike Shildt more and more. And you know what? Okay, I believe him. I believe that this whole thing probably is closer to, hey, he just didn't want to do the grind anymore, and it was messing with his mental health, right? And he needed to walk away. Then I'll believe more of this of what happened and transpired than have all these questions that I do have.
Oh yeah, it's like I brought up on Monday. It was kind of slightly reminded me of like the Ty Lue situation with LeBron, to where he was under so much stress having to coach LeBron that like his organs started to shut down, remember, and he had to like retire because of his health.
And that's the same thing with Mike Shildt here. Again, I am not doubting that there was a mental grind here, and this really affected him. And the death threats and all that stuff, like, it's unacceptable, right? And there's no excuses for that. None whatsoever. But if he goes on and manages again, this whole thing is complete BS. Complete BS. And that's when we'll know. And it might take forever before we officially put the bow on this Mike Shildt story. But if in 2 years he's managing again, yeah, this whole thing, complete BS. All right, coming up next, baseball postseason, ALCS about to get underway in Seattle. NFL Week 7 right around the corner, so we'll get into that as well. Some more tickets to give away later next hour as well. My back page to finish up the show. So all of that coming up next on Jon and Jim right here on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app.
The support is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Game 3 of the ALCS between the Blue Jays and Mariners in Seattle is minutes away from getting started. It's going to be Shane Bieber going against George Kirby. Game 4 of the series is set for tomorrow night at 5:30. Seattle has a 2-zip lead in that series. Game 3 of the NLCS between the Brewers and Dodgers is tomorrow afternoon at 3:08. The Brewers have yet to name a starter. It's going to be Tyler Glasnow going for the Dodgers, and the Dodgers have a 2-zip lead in that series as well. Make sure to catch SDFC Midweek Live tonight with Adrian and Darren. The guys will talk all things SDFC at 6 o'clock on your home for SDFC, San Diego Sports 760. Progressive Insurance can help you protect your home, auto, boat, motorcycle, ATV, and your RV and more. And if something wasn't mentioned that you had in mind, find out if it can be covered at progressive.com or call 1-800-PROGRESSIVE because it probably can be.
Getting you all set for that drive home. Let's just start the show. Here's Jon and Jim.
All right, final hour of Jon and Jim on a Wednesday. Game 3 of the ALCS, moments away from first pitch in Seattle. Week 7 of the NFL season gets underway tomorrow night. It's already week 7, Brent. Like, what? Congratulations, by the way. Congratulations are in order. Because Jake Moody is now the greatest kicker in the history of football.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah. You know, I asked Fletch on Tuesday. I was like, so were you just happy to see Jake Moody succeed? He's like, no.
Well, he should say he doesn't care because as of right now, Eddie Pinheiro has been phenomenal for the 49ers, even though every single 49ers player is injured.
See, it worked out because we just swapped our kickers and they were both sucking. And now, you know,
it's honestly, Brent, like I'm not joking right now when I say this. The MVP of the 49ers this year at this point is Eddie Pinheiro.
Yeah. Well, did you see that?
Which is wild.
I saw on Facebook this afternoon that I want to say it's somewhere up in NorCal, of course, like Irvine or someplace like that.
Mm-hmm.
They have like a Halloween display.
I saw that.
The 49ers with all the skeletons, whereas all the injured 49ers
walking in the blue tent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that too. It's a great Halloween
it's good.
Decoration. But that's what it is. I mean, every 49ers player is injured.
And you know, I blame you for what's his name? Yeah, because remember on Friday, I think it was on Friday, you're like, oh, you know, everyone gets hurt. You know who's gonna get hurt next? And then
Fred Warner.
Yeah, and then you spoke it into existence.
So guess what happens this week? Christian McCaffrey's gonna get injured. I mean, it is just the most insane cycle of WTF in San Francisco that I've ever seen. It's not just 1 year. It's like the last 5 years.
I think they need a new trainer. This is like, remember when the Chargers were here and like every year Jason Verrett would like blow his ACL out and
without failure.
It'd be like, why are you guys blowing out so many ACLs? Maybe you need to get a new trainer or something.
But like, here's the thing with the Fred Warner stuff. That was a completely fluke injury.
Yeah.
Completely fluke. And you know who could get the blame for that injury other than the player that rolled up on Fred Warner's ankle is Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh. Because going back to that play, there were only 10 defensive players on the field. And that is a big reason why the guy rolled up on Fred Warner. So anyway, I digress. But congratulations, Brent, from taking our awful kicker and now he's kicking game winners for the Bears. Like,
he took your trash and turned it into a treasure.
Exactly.
At least until our normal kicker is healthy enough to go.
Yeah. All right. So game 3 of the ALCS, the scene in Seattle is epic. I mean, if that place is like on the verge of exploding, every seat is filled. That place is packed. And so the Seattle Mariners looking for a 3-0 series lead in the ALCS.
Now you mentioned, start of game time, every seat is filled. How many seats will you think will be filled tomorrow at 3:08 up at Chavez Ravine?
65%.
Oh, that many? Okay.
Yeah, 65%. Dodgers fans are entering spoiled territory, which they already are spoiled because their team has the best players. It spends the most money. They win every division title, and they're about to be on the verge of winning multiple World Series in a row. And so, like, getting in your seat at first pitch at Dodger Stadium during a playoff run now for the Dodgers, like, I'll show up in like the third inning. And that's part of the course for Dodgers fans. Anyway, like, we'll show up in like the third or fourth inning. It's fine. We know we're going to win anyway. And that's what it is, for the Dodgers. And it is what it is. Like I said, it's better to accept it now than fight it. It's just what's going to happen, everybody. The Dodgers are going to win the World Series. They're expected to win the World Series. If they don't win the World Series, it's a massive failure. It's an embarrassment for that franchise. And it will be deemed one of the biggest failures of a season that anybody could remember. 2023 Padres would like to have a discussion about that. But this 2025 LA Dodgers, if they do not win the World Series, it is one of the biggest failures in the history of the sport. Full stop. They're the favorites. They have the highest payroll. They have some of the best players. They have the best pitching staff. There's nothing that ends here other than a World Series that would be considered a successful season. That's it. For the Dodgers, that's it. I mean, you could argue their regular season wasn't that successful, but guess what? They won the division. They are now in the NLCS. They're on their way to another World Series. And if they don't win, it's a failure. End of discussion. But they're going to win. Like, they're going to win. So just realizing that now, it's probably better for everyone's mental health instead of fighting it, right? Just, hey, not going to fight this. They're going to win. And by the way, if they win, and when they win, let's be honest here, when they win another World Series, I mean, is this coming at a time that baseball doesn't want to see it happen? Because the lockout's right around the corner. And if the Dodgers win a World Series here, guess what? That's more fuel to the fire of why there needs to be a salary cap for certain teams. Because now you're going to be looking at, well, the Dodgers, they're just, look at all the money they spent. We can't compete with that. How can we compete with that? I think it's also a little BS because, look, going forward, and we'll talk about it, we have all offseason to discuss the Padres as far as spending money in the offseason goes and their payroll goes and what their payroll will look like. But I am on the side of, hey, these teams have money. These owners have money. Go spend it. Don't be cheap. Do the Padres have money to spend? Absolutely. If you think they don't, well, Dave, I'll see your call in a minute. But they have money to spend. Are they going to choose to spend or not? The Dodgers spending money, they have unlimited resources. I get it. But when you're the Padres and you sell it every game and the merchandise that you are, that's flying off the shelf, right? Like, you got money, go out and spend it. Don't be cheap here. And a lot of teams are cheap. And it's not like they're broke. They have money. They just choose not to spend it.
Well, see, the catch-22 with that is certain teams have shown that you can win without spending money.
Yeah.
The Brewers this year, Tampa Bay on the regular is always competitive and they don't spend squat. So, just because you spend a lot of money doesn't necessarily mean you are going to win. You can win without spending money. I'm just wondering if they're going to try and, like we've talked about before, maybe institute some sort of floor to it. Not necessarily a cap, but just a floor to say that, you guys got to at least spend a little bit of money in every off season.
Also, though, show me the last baseball team that, to your point, didn't spend a bunch of money to win a World Series. I'll wait. I mean, the Texas Rangers a couple years ago, but they spent a bunch of money. I'm trying to think. I mean, the Washington Nationals, they spent a bunch of money. The Atlanta Braves, they spent money. I'm not saying, like, show me the last team that didn't spend $300 million on a payroll, but show me the last team that was under like the $120 million range that won a World Series.
Just a quick Google search would have to go back almost over 20 years. The 03 Florida Marlins won the World Series, and on opening day, they were 25th in the league in payroll.
So exactly, if you're not spending money, you're not going to be
at the end of the
winning.
year, they got rid of everybody anyways,
Right.
even though they didn't cost them nothing.
And by the way, back then, the dollar was way different than it is now. I bet you the highest payroll in baseball that season probably was either the Red Sox or the Yankees, around 200 plus million. Now you got teams that have payrolls in the upper 300 million range. So it's different. And if you're not going to spend money, you're not going to win. End of story. That's just what it is. All right, we're underway in Seattle. We'll give you an update there. We also are going to get into week 7 of the NFL coming up next right here on Jon and Jim on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, San Diego Sports 760 has 13 chances to win $1,000 every weekday with the Bonus Bucks giveaway. That's every hour, 6 a.m. through 6 p.m. Listen for the keyword, then enter it at sportssd.com. Next chance to win $1,000 coming up at 6 p.m. Also coming up at 6 p.m., SDFC Midweek Live. Darren Smith is in the house getting ready for one full hour of SDFC Talk. Their final match of the regular season is this Saturday night, 6 p.m. versus the Portland Timbers on the road. The scenarios for seeding for SDFC are this. If SDFC wins versus Portland and Vancouver loses versus Dallas, SDFC is the 1 seed. If SDFC comes away with a draw versus Portland, and LAFC comes away with a draw or a loss to Colorado, SDFC is the 2 seed. If SDFC comes away with a draw versus Portland and LAFC wins versus Colorado, SDFC is the 3 seed. So those are the scenarios for SDFC this weekend. Again, best case, SDFC wins, Vancouver loses, SDFC is the 1 seed. If they come away with a draw on the weekend, you're going to need a draw from LAFC or a loss from LAFC against Colorado to get the 2 seed. So those are the scenarios right now for Saturday night. And I'm sure Darren and Adrian are going to talk all about it coming up here at 6 p.m. right here on San Diego Sports 760. So week 7 of the NFL starts tomorrow night with Thursday Night Football. Steelers and Bengals.
Did you hear what they named that game tomorrow?
Yeah, is it the AARP game?
Close. Cam Hayward said it's the Icy Hot Bowl.
The Icy Hot Bowl, because you got old man Aaron Rodgers against older man Joe Flacco. Not that exciting of a matchup, to be honest with you. Like, do I want to watch Joe Flacco and Aaron Rodgers play football? Not really.
Honestly, it's on par for Thursday night, though.
True. I mean, Thursday Night Football is historically the weeks kind of just like Titans Jaguars feel of a game.
Well, we don't have to worry about this week because the Jags are going to England, where they love them over there.
Oh yeah, it's like their second home.
Yeah, it's like how Germans love David Hasselhoff. English people love the Jaguars.
Jaguars and the Rams. The London game, 6:30 a.m. on Sunday.
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, I'm good there. I'm good there. You know, being back on the East Coast though, Brent, on Sunday, it was an eye-opening. And I've had it before because I've been on the East Coast plenty of times now with Aaron, and you know, watching games on the East Coast. But like Saturday, the baseball games, I mean, they start super late. I'm like, whoa. The Aztec game didn't start until like 10:30.
Yeah, it was like midnight when I left.
Yeah. So like that game, I was asleep when that game ended. But of course, the game ended at halftime. But then on Sunday, like we're so used to, and you've done it because you've lived back east, right? But you know, games, the 10 a.m. games on the West Coast start at 1 p.m. on the East Coast. And then you got the 1 o'clock games on the West Coast starting at 4 p.m. on the East Coast. And then Sunday Night Football, instead of starting at 5:15 on the West Coast, starts at 8:15 on the East Coast. Like, yo,
there's stuff about it that I like on both ways. Cause you know, for me, my whole life growing up, you know, on Sunday, football started at noon and the second game was at 3 or 3:25
for college football, right?
No, for NFL.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Because we're 2 hours, Wisconsin's 2 hours behind California.
Yeah.
For college, it was because the Badgers barely ever played night games. So it was either we played at 11 o'clock in the morning, 2:30, or it'd be the occasional like primetime game. But that was it. You know, out here, I like where you can get up and have, you know, right away eat breakfast and watch the NFL at 10:30.
Football all day long.
But on the other hand, I also liked, you know, granted, this is when I slept a lot more than I do now.
Yeah.
I liked being able to, in my youth, sleep in until noon and then just roll out of bed and then go watch football instead of having to get up, especially when I did fantasy football, because then I didn't have to get up and check my lineup at like 9 a.m. or 6 a.m. all the time. I could get up and do it later.
Yeah, I think there are pros and cons for both.
Prime time is the biggest one. West Coast is the best for prime time.
Best for prime
because
time.
Monday night football, Thursday night football, doesn't matter what it is. It's done by like 8:30.
Yep.
So if you want to, you can still go out to dinner or go out and do whatever you want to after the game. It's not like back home to where it's 10:30, 11 o'clock before the game is done, and then it's time to go to bed.
Yeah, if you lived on the East Coast and you were a West Coast person your entire life, like myself, it would definitely take some getting used to. And so it was a little weird. Like I had a full morning. We went out to breakfast. We like went on a walk. We had lunch. And then, we get home and the first games of the day are just starting. You're like, what? Like it was a weird feeling. Oh, wow. Seattle, man, that place is rocking right now. Seattle has just taken a 2-0 lead thanks to a Julio Rodriguez 2-run homer in the bottom of the first inning. I know I said that I didn't think this series was over. Yeah, I might be wrong on that one. That place is going crazy in Seattle. Crazy right now. Again, proving the point. If you are not going to hit home runs, you are not going to win in the postseason. Just as simple as that. You can't win in the postseason in today's game without hitting bombs.
Maybe we need a home run trident.
They need something. Now they had the swag chain, but that thing kind of fizzled out. That really pissed everybody off.
Then they still do the Polaroid thing, but they should have stopped doing that last year.
Yeah, they just need to, I don't know, hit the ball over the fence. But Seattle has taken a 2-0 lead in the bottom of the first inning over the Blue Jays. I mean, this thing could potentially be, hey, Max Scherzer, you need to save our season in game 4. Good luck.
Yeah, Bieber probably shouldn't have thrown that right down the middle of the plate.
That's nice little hanger right there. Nice little hanger for Julio to give the Mariners a 2-0 lead here. Place is absolutely rocking. Randy Johnson throwing out the first pitch. That was awesome.
It was kind of funny watching the big unit throw the first pitch, but he didn't stand on the mound. He stood like he was like some YouTube influencer or something.
I'm gonna stand 20 feet in front of the mound.
Yeah,
I ain't going to the top of the mound. I ain't going back to the rubber. All right, coming up next, if you missed it, Annie Halloran joined us earlier in the day. We had to discuss the whole thing that's going on with the Padres and Mike Shildt. So you're going to hear that conversation. Also, my back page to wrap up the show. Stay right here on Jon and Jim on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app. Hey guys, it's Jim from Jon and Jim here for the all-new Humboldt Casino Resort, the Players Place. The next level of luxury has arrived. You can treat yourself to a stunning new stay, rooftop relaxation, indulgent spa treatments, and all the thrills of Humboldt Casino Resort now all in one unforgettable destination. You can unwind in style, experience pure relaxation with indulgent treatments, serene spaces, and a retreat designed to refresh your body and mind, only at Humboldt Casino Resort. Learn more and book a treatment today at HumboldtCasino.com/spa. Also, you can savor San Diego's ultimate endless dining experience at Humboldt 23, from their world famous lobster brunch served every morning to the luxurious VIP endless dining experience each evening. Indulge in chef curated specialties, fresh seafood, prime cuts, and decadent desserts, all with stunning panoramic views. That's all at Humboldt Casino Resort, the Players Place.
The support is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Game 3 of the ALCS between the Blue Jays and the Mariners is underway. Right now, they are in, I think they're in the bottom of the top of the second.
Top of the second.
There we go. That's what I thought. The Seattle is up 2-0 off of a 2-run home run by Julio Rodriguez. Game 4 of the series is set for tomorrow night at 5:33. Game 3 of the NLCS between the Brewers and Dodgers is set for tomorrow afternoon at 3:08. The Brewers have yet to name a starter. It's going to be Tyler Glasnow going for LA. Make sure to catch SDFC Midweek live with Adrian and Darren tonight when they talk all things San Diego FC at 6 o'clock on your home of San Diego FC, San Diego Sports 760. Progressive Insurance can help you protect your home, auto, boat, motorcycle, ATV, and RV, and more. And if something wasn't mentioned that you had in mind, find out if it can be covered at progressive.com or at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE, because it probably can be.
All right, if you missed it early in the show, Andy Halbron of the UT joined me to talk about the drama down at Petco Park, and it's never ending with the Padres. So we basically started there with, it's never ending drama with the Padres, right?
You're absolutely correct. I think we've all gotten a little bit used to it now that there's some kind of story, some kind of drama, some kind of soap opera thing happening with the Padres, especially in the off season. And it's what we've seen the last, 5 or 6 years, honestly. But I think it's this week, having this Mike Shildt decision, though, was shocking. I mean, I think that AJ Preller said yesterday it was not shocking. It was surprising or something like that. Whatever you want to call it, I know most people didn't see that coming. You figured that there would be some kind of who knows, exit talks about doing things a little differently next year, or, having the offseason to work through some things, or to have some other goals for next season. But for a guy who has 2 years left on his contract, who is a baseball lifer, who worked really hard to get back into that manager position after he was let go by the St. Louis Cardinals, and just who is a very competitive person by nature, to see him so quote unquote walk away or retire from the San Diego Padres was not something I had on my bingo card for this week.
Yeah, I think I did a triple take. I had to literally make sure Kevin was like a real person. I was like, wait, this is, did he just tweet this? It was crazy. Andy Halbron joining me here on Jon and Jim. So I guess the next thing here is, do you really believe it? Like, do you believe everything that's being said, or are you of the mindset that there's probably more to this story that maybe we'll never know, but there's at least a feeling of there's more to this story?
Yeah, I think that, like many people who are around this while, there's usually more to the story, or there's something that's being omitted that comes out later, and we might never know it. I think you're right there. I think that we might never know it, and we don't know all the details of whatever agreement was drawn up when Mike said he's going to retire, or whatever word they used, or however it's going to go. I think that there could be more to it, and certainly we've been hearing more in terms of Mike's relationship with the coaching staff and what a lot of people were experiencing throughout the season. But in terms of did they have some kind of arrangement? Did the front office, I've heard from multiple people that AJ Preller was really surprised at this news, that he, didn't mention it to anyone beforehand. So if he did know about it, maybe he was tight-lipped, but there's reason to think he didn't know about it. And maybe they had, had some talks with Mike, and Mike had gone home and decided that he didn't want to go forward, it sounds like, under whatever, maybe he looked at the future and he said, well, I'm going to have to compromise what I think is the right way to do things in order to fit X, Y, Z, or, please this person or that person. That's what he's been kind of talking about this week, and decided not to. But there's so many, the interesting thing about this, this is all again speculation on my part, because it could also just be face value. I mean, it could be that everything we're hearing is exactly what it is. And it went down exactly how it went down. And so I can't say that it's not that, but I do think a few things are curious. One is that Mike has already said that he's already going to come back to baseball. Like I said, he's a baseball lifer. I mean, this guy lives, breathes, eats baseball. It's all he's ever known. He has sacrificed a personal life, and I think he realizes some of that now. He's divorced now. He has no kids. There's a lot that he's given up for baseball, and that he has willingly done that. But I can't. He's already said he's coming back to the game, and perhaps more in the player development role. Okay, well let's move that forward then. Why not? Why not say, hey, I don't want to manage anymore. I'm going to take a year off. I'm going to work on my health, and then I'm going to come back to the Padres and be in their player development department. And maybe there's reasons for that. Maybe he will come back and be part of the Padres player development department. But again, there's only 30 of these jobs, and to have 2 years left on your contract, and to say that you're going to come back to baseball in some other way, maybe not as a manager again, does leave a lot of, I guess, curiosity, in terms of what those next steps look like and where he'll be and how long he'll take. I mean, does that mean, he'll take a year off? Will he take 5 years off? Will he be back in baseball after this offseason? We don't know, so I think it's going to be interesting to watch how it unravels and see where he ends up. But he's already said that he's coming back to baseball, but just probably in a different way.
Yeah, the wording, as I said earlier in the show today, like the wording you have to pay attention to. He did not retire from baseball or from managing. Right. He retired from the Padres, which I kind of said he quit, because that's essentially what it is. It's just a nicer way of saying it. Retiring from the Padres means he quit. And it might be harsh, but that's essentially what happened here. For a guy that was Mr. Never Quit to essentially then quit, like that's where all the flags are waving in the wind for me when it comes to this whole situation, with Mike Shildt. Andy Halpern joining us here on Jon and Jim. So now we move on to, AJ Preller. I mean, before the bombshell on Monday morning of Mike Shildt, quote unquote, retiring, the biggest question was this offseason was the future of AJ Preller. Now with Mike Shildt, removing himself from the equation here, do you think there's a better chance that AJ sticks around for a longer period of time? Or do you still think that question is a legitimate one to ask right now and that it potentially could be up in the air?
I think it's a little bit up in the air. I mean, the Union Tribune reported yesterday that it's an almost certainty. This was a Jeff Sanders story with Kevin Acee contributing, that AJ is getting an extension. They're working on the extension right now. So for all we know, he is going to get an extension, and that is moving forward, or at least that's been what's been said in terms of what's been said to the reporters, or to the Union Tribune. What I think is an X factor here a little bit is, has anybody been talking to AJ? I mean, if other teams want to talk to Preller, my understanding is they've got to get permission from the Padres. And is there anything going on that we don't know about? Are there other teams that might be interested that maybe have asked for permission? Does AJ want to stay? Does he want an extension? I think that he really does love San Diego. I think that he's really enjoyed everything he's done here. And I do think he's an integral part of the equation. There's pros and cons to AJ Preller. He definitely is not perfect, but I give him credit for what he has built. And yes, for a while there, there was an open checkbook and there was a lot of influence from Peter Seidler. And some of these contracts honestly aren't even AJ's contracts. And he has made some mistakes. There's no doubt about it. You look at Preller and he's definitely made some mistakes. But the last year or two, I think that he's redeemed himself in a lot of ways and helped kind of make this a machine that churns out the chance to be competitive and to get a deep World Series run, or to make a deep postseason run each year. So I think that you have to kind of ask yourself, if you want him gone, do you know someone? And not saying that there aren't great baseball minds out there. There are, and there's people that you can plug and play into that role. They're not going to be AJ Preller, but they could be better. They could be worse, just like a manager, right? We just don't know. But I don't know, who they're kind of targeting for that, if that's the case. So my guess here is that he's going to be extended, and I would think it's maybe 2 years or something like that. But there's always an X factor of, is he talking to other teams? Does he even want to be here?
Yeah. And it kind of brings me back to, the Mike Shildt thing, and even going back to Bob Melvin. Like, if an organization really wants to keep somebody, they are going to do everything they possibly can to keep them. Like,
Yes.
The Bob Melvin situation, Peter Seidler wanted Bob Melvin to stay, and then he unfortunately passed away. And then the Padres said, "Oh, Bob, if you want to go talk to other teams, go talk to their teams," which is code for, we don't want to fire you, but we also don't want you. Like, and then the same thing happened, I feel, with Shildt. Shildt retires, quits. Did anybody in the organization, did AJ like put his foot down and be like, "Dude, can you please think about this? Like, we really want you here." Or did they just go, "Okay"? Now it kind of feels like, as you said, with AJ Preller, like if they really want AJ Preller around, they're going to fight for him. And it's just
correct.
Yeah. So it's just a weird situation. I'm sorry, go.
I don't mean to interrupt you, Jim, but you know what? I just want to say that because I don't want it to come across like he doesn't want to be here. But you're saying a point that I should have made, which is yes, like if he is talking to other teams or there's something like that going on, it's because he doesn't feel comfortable with whatever might be happening here, or that he is going to have a long-term future here, or a future that gives him a chance, to kind of put some roots down past a year or two or whatever. You don't really want to be the lame duck guy, So to your point, I think that that's something that if they really do want him here, then they are going to be courting him and giving him something that he can live with and something that makes him feel like he's definitely part of the future here for the Padres, and not just kind of, I guess, bridging the gap until John Seidler or Eric Greupner brings in the guy that they really want, So that is something for sure to look at. And I do think that's just very quickly on the Mike Shildt thing. I do think that that's something also to consider is with all the reporting that's come out about Mike Shildt now, it's like, it just seems awfully convenient.
Yeah, very.
That like they kind of wanted him, it's like they weren't all that keen on what was going on anyways. Again, and when you listen to Mike Shildt's words, his words are important. He says repeatedly, "I didn't have it in me to go for another 90-win season plus World Series championship run." And so he's very deliberate about that. Yeah. Like, he didn't have it in him to do what he thought would be necessary to go another 90-plus wins and a World Series run based on what was going on in his mind in the organization and the fans and the media and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It just, to me, it doesn't really pass the smell test, to be honest with you. It's just little odd and little weird how this whole thing kind of shaped up in the last 48 hours or so. So look, we have to move forward. Obviously, the franchise is going to hire another manager, whoever hires that person. So who do you think right now goes to the top of that list? We haven't heard many names. We've heard some names, but in your opinion right now, Annie, it's very early in the process. Throw out some names that you think could be potential candidates.
Yeah, it's a good question. And I'm going to kind of answer and then give a few thoughts there. So internally, they're going to look. They're going to give these guys a chance. So Ruben Niebla, AJ Ellis, whoever internally they look at that they think could be a possibility here. Because ultimately, I think this is okay, if you're the Padres, and there's a few things that it depends on. Number one, you need to get a manager that is confident and that is authentic and that knows what he's doing, because this is a veteran clubhouse. And there's one thing I've learned in this manager carousel that's happened. It is that they sniff out the fake, or the guy that doesn't know what he's doing, or the person that doesn't have a plan, or maybe someone who's more performative, like, isn't super confident. So he's flipping over tables and he's yelling at people and just making everything very performative. Like, they sniff that out in a heartbeat.
Like Mike
so
Shildt?
if you get someone who's
Sorry.
I think Mike Shildt, they because he was such a player's manager.
Yeah.
Because that was the one place that he really was always positive and was always backing them and was always whatever. It was that clubhouse, right? But more someone I would say that is inexperienced, or maybe that is like running a million drills because they don't know any better, or who knows, things like that, where it's like players who are been around the block. Yeah, the eyewash. Thank you. That's a better way to put it. So that's number one. Number two, what is the Padres' budget? Are they going to be able to afford a top tier manager? Will they give that person a good contract? Because if not, then you're looking at someone who is either a little more inexperienced and wants a chance, or B, wants a second chance like a Mike Shildt and is desperate for that second chance. And I was listening to, was it Joe Madden? There was someone foul territory this morning who I thought made a really good point, where it was like, clubs more and more these days are looking for someone who has less experience because the front office wants to be able to exert more power and more influence over what's going on. So sometimes like experience can be a detractor, and that's not just in managing. Unfortunately, now that is throughout the organization. You can see that, and that's I'm just not just saying that that's the Padres. You can see that throughout baseball. So, and I don't know that it is the Padres. Maybe they will really value experience, but they will really value paying, more money for the more experienced coach or manager that can take them or that has on his resume multiple postseason runs, maybe a world championship run, So I don't know. I have no idea what that front office is valuing or not valuing or what their budget allows. But in my mind, that's really what you want to go for here. You want to get someone who's got a resume, who's got if it's internal, I understand like Ruben Abel doesn't have that, but internal, what you do have is continuity, and you have someone who understands the clubhouse, and you have someone who's been around the game and the organization for a while. And I think there's a ton of value in that. So I guess that would be the exception to the rule. But if you're going outside the organization, I really believe you need someone who's got a resume and will the Padres, be able to go out and really pay for that guy or bring him in? I don't know.
Well, we'll probably be talking about this in 2 years again anyway, so we'll probably just save this clip.
Jim, that's a big question, though. I think if you are someone texted me this, can't say who, but last night was saying, well, what does it matter? If you're coming in, you might get blown out in a few years, so you're just either trying to get yourself another chance, or you're trying to, have your own resume and your own experience a little bit. I hope not. I hope not for the Padres' sake. I hope they're able to keep someone for a long time. But I think that could be a question in whatever candidate is available in their mind.
Yeah, well, 7th time's a charm, Annie. So we'll see what happens here. It's never a dull moment in Padres land. So I'm sure we'll have some more things to talk about later this offseason, winter meetings, new manager, and we'll catch up with you down the road. All right, Annie?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, that was Andy Halburn of the UT there. We have a tie ball game in Seattle as the Toronto Blue Jays just hit a 2-run homer. We're tied at 2 apiece in the top of the 3rd inning, so we'll keep you updated on that. But coming up next, my back page right here on Jon and Jim on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, we're tied up at 2 apiece in Seattle, thanks to a 2-run homer by the Blue Jays number 9 hitter. So we have a whole new ball game here in the top of the 3rd inning, as the Blue Jays actually are now threatening once again, looking to take the lead here, 2 on and 1 out. Runners at 2nd and 3rd there. So we'll keep you updated on that. We only got a couple more minutes left in the show, so Brent, let's get to it. Okay, so Halloween is right around the corner. So there are always these Halloween food items for the holiday season, or at least for the Halloween season. Heinz Ketchup has launched a brand new limited edition mayonnaise just in time for Halloween. It's taking a playful twist on a flavor this year, following the success of its scarily good black garlic mayo. This special edition mayo combines Heinz classic creamy texture with the tangy, punchy taste of Monster Munch iconic pickled onion crisps.
Oh, okay. It sounds disgusting because it's onions, but for a minute I was worried that you're gonna say that they made pumpkin spice mayonnaise.
No, it's
like, say it isn't so.
No, that'd be too much. McDonald's, Brent, is introducing across the ocean. This is you have to go to Europe to do this. But
okay,
if you want to go to Europe to have your wedding, you can have McDonald's basically cater the entire thing. McDonald's is introducing a $235 wedding package with 100 boxes of chicken nuggets. So look, if you want to save money because you're having your wedding in Europe, for about $230, you could have McDonald's cater your wedding.
I think the only way you could get away with having McDonald's cater your wedding and not have your wife kill you before you even get married is, well, fine. What if it's like a McDonald's in France? Okay,
sure. By the way, McDonald's in Europe are actually like a delicacy. Like they're like legit.
You can get beer and stuff in there.
Yeah, they're
Pulp Fiction.
They're legit. And finally, I don't know if you had this on your back page, though, Brent, the other day. What would you guess the number one fastest drive-through in America is?
Chick-fil-A.
Wrong. Taco Bell was just ranked the number 1 for fastest drive-through in America. I have some questions about that one.
Yeah, not the Aero Drive one.
That thing takes forever.
There could be 2 cars in the drive-through, and I'll have to sit there for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they didn't go to the Aero Drive one.
That is a lie. All right, thanks to Andy Halbrun. Thanks to Tom Penn for joining me today. Thanks to Brent. Thanks to all of you out there. We're back tomorrow starting at 2 p.m. But coming up next, SDFC Midweek Live with Darren and Adrian. So stay right here on San Diego Sports 760.